You know, you guys think that we do this podcast to cover various topics. I personally do it just because I want to hear Mike's voice, like through
So
this,
why'd you
like
invite
this high
me?
of fidelity. Because I need you here for a thumbnail. We've established that, and I like that. I like that you've kind of made it a tradition to come here looking like lesbian Charlie Brown.
I didn't have the foresight to bring extra clothes with me.
Don't worry, I have the foreskin for that.
Oh!
I don't want to wear your foreskin.
Like, if you could fuck sound, I'd fuck Mike's voice. Absolutely.
I mean, you could damage my voice box.
Give you a nice penile tracheotomy.
Make my voice even deeper.
That's right. You know, I really want to play fucking Starfield so bad.
Yeah.
And honestly, like...
Play in your field.
Wait, so was it as bad as the leak said it was going to be?
I don't know.
Wait, is it out?
I don't pay
Yeah, it
attention
came
to that
out
stuff.
yesterday.
It's
Wait, what?
No,
Or the day before.
If you aren't a peasant, and unfortunately for us, we're poors, so we can't afford the premium edition. If you're lucrative enough to afford, sorry, I'm using the wrong terminology. Horribly.
That's okay.
Okay, let's start this again. If you're not a poor, you can afford the premium edition, which that allows you to have early access for you get to play the game 5 days early.
Oh, okay.
Pay more money, you get to play the game early. So I'm kind of just a Game Pass peasant. So I have to wait until the actual launch day, and it's driving me fucking crazy.
So basically, Thursday? Friday? Is the actual release?
No, it's September 6th. Because if I could play Starfield right now, there'd be no fucking podcast right now. Absolutely
but
not.
there would be.
No,
yeah.
I need.
You'd be playing
I
it
need
while
to experience Todd's vision.
You'd be playing it while we do the podcast.
I wouldn't be listening. I'd be like, yeah, man, them aliens and shit.
So Ryan, what do you think about the aliens?
Yeah, Todd Howard, definitely an alien.
Todd. Fuck Todd. Todd.
His dick has 16 times the inches.
Mike's just going to fucking think about Todd Howard too much and come.
That's God Howard to you.
I don't know. I'm going to wait because I spent money on Baldur's Gate that I didn't have, and I don't want to do it again.
Ooh.
See,
and I'm not even done I'm 80 hours into Baldur's Gate, and I just got to Act 2.
Damn.
That's going to take me forever to get through. So by the time I get through that, a Starfield will be fucking $20.
yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the time to allocate to play Baldur's Gate. That just seems too complicated. I feel like
You could play it in small parts.
I feel like when I was
Oh,
a
yeah.
kid and I'd kind of look at my uncle, he'd be like, you know, games have too many buttons nowadays because he was more familiar with the Atari and the Nintendos and stuff. So when we started moving up to them, their Xboxes and them
the Nintendo.
them play of stations.
Can you stop playing the Nintendo?
I thought you were going to go so dark with that. I'm like, yeah, here comes the uncle.
Well,
I got to be the joystick.
you could play it in just like small sessions. There's no reason you can't just pick it up and drop it. Like,
yeah, like
it's meant to be played like Dungeons and Dragons.
I played it, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah. Me and Mike started a game and that was it.
But
we did the beginning of the game and that was it.
I've got 2 other people that just got it on console. And
You can't crossplay with console.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I thought you could. You can't. You can like move your saved files between platforms, but they can't do multiplayer.
Mike looks so disparaged right now.
Oh my god.
What? So
I've been boasting this fucking game at work, and I'm like, oh man, it's so fucking awesome. We should play together. I can't even fucking play together.
this is how they're gonna find out too.
Woo. Oh my fuck.
Man, you've just been exposed. I don't
Damn.
see. I don't give a shit. I just want Starfield. I'll go there and I'll suck the curls right out of Todd Howard's hair. I don't care. I just
Yeah, I
want to
bet
play
you
some
would.
fucking Starfield. It's my long weekend, and I don't have anything to do. I get to sit here with you fucking troglodytes and record this thing.
I've been waiting 3 weeks to play a game with someone that I can't fucking.
So funny.
It's such
I'll play it
bullshit.
with you, Michael.
Yeah, we can.
I don't have
continue.
access to a computer right now, but well, that's not true. I'll have to go to my sister's and use hers.
At
But
least your friends can play together.
Yeah,
yeah,
we can continue our campaign.
And
now.
they'll just sit there and shit on you the whole time.
Oh yeah, that's okay. I shit on me.
Mike has,
Please don't do
if
that.
there's anything Mike excels at, it's letting everybody down.
They call me the Down
I
syndrome.
have a question. How much of this was recorded?
It's been recording for a while.
Okay.
Actually, you know, I was sitting here thinking today, I was like, in third world countries, what do they get instead of Starfield? Minefield.
They just
All I'm picturing is fucking Rambo 3.
Shit.
Damn.
I just made that one up, by the way.
wow. You really are just
My
talent.
my mind excels in
You really are
areas.
just talent incarnate, huh?
My mind excels in the most superfluous of areas. And well, preamble aside, welcome to part 2 of our UFO podcast on Talk the Plank. Last week we covered like what the origins of extraterrestrials could be, if they even are extraterrestrials. So we figured this time we'd cover where they why there's a lack of tangible evidence, and why do you think that proof of their existence is not as readily available as you think it would be, especially with the plethora of sightings and people who are intrinsically involved in keeping this thing a secret. Because if there's anything that people aren't good at, it's keeping a secret, especially one that's that coveted. And depending on what scenario you go with, there's a lot of people who would be in this. And like I said, people's trust is kind of dubious at best. So the first thing that we could talk about as to why the existence of extraterrestrials, if that's what they are anyway, or UAPs, so we'll just use that instead, might be hard to detect or might not exist. It could because of the Fermi Paradox. So to give a brief overview of what the Fermi Paradox could be, it's something that was proposed by Enrico Fermi that postulates that if alien life is abundant, as some people believe, then where are they? Because if these beings are technologically advanced enough to contrive technological marvels such as Dyson spheres or interstellar travel, you figure that sort of thing would be easily picked up, because a Dyson sphere is something that's constructed around the sun of a star system, and that essentially absorbs all the energy from the sun. So picture it like a steroid solar panel in a way, but it's basically rotates around, it circles around the whole sun. It basically encased the sun in this spherical object, like the eponymous name states.
Could you imagine if, like, black holes were just Dyson spheres?
Well,
That would be fucked.
black holes is another way that beings could harvest energy, because black holes are essentially like infinite energy. So after Dyson spheres, that's essentially something you could move up to, is harnessing the power of a black hole.
What I'm getting at, though, is like to encase a sun or a star with like mirrors and like what I could only assume would be like a very thick structure. The amount of mass that would add to the star. Woo! So what if it's just like, because of these Dyson spheres, they're just absorbing they're absorbing all the light from the star, but also bending space-time around it. So it's like, here we are thinking like, oh, stars are just sucking themselves, like, everything up in it. Meanwhile, it's just like, no, just a casing.
That's all it is. But that kind of leaves people ask the question, and especially like Enrico Fermi said, why isn't there any conclusive evidence alluding to their existence? There's a lot of conjecture surrounding it, but nothing's really bipartisan. So what do you guys think? why haven't we found any conclusive evidence, or at least why isn't the public more aware of said evidence if it does exist?
Do you want to go first?
No, you can go first.
To from our perspective, I mean, we could be seeing signs of alien life all the time. It's just we might not comprehend what we see or be able to even detect what we see.
So kind of like Melanie.
Yeah, it would basically be like a present day person time traveling back into like 1901 with a cell phone. Like, people are going to be like, what the fuck's a cell phone? Or go back even further, like mid 1800s.
That's the thing, if there was a time traveler and a time traveler did go back in time and possess that type of technology, do you think the public would even notice? I mean, you're just walking down the street doing something. I don't know, you could be playing with a fucking box of cigars for all they knew, or a pack of cigarettes. I mean, as long as you're not conspicuous with it, I don't really think anybody's going to ask any questions as to what's happening, because typically, especially if you're in a big city, people have this very you may be in a giant cluster of people, but no one is paying attention to what anybody else is doing.
Completely fucking oblivious.
I mean, I live in a smaller town, and I did this experiment one time when I was out eating with my girlfriend, and I was just talking about just vulgar things. I was like, Zoe, nobody's paying attention to anything that I'm saying. They're on their cell phone. They're picking their nose. They're dissecting their food. I could sit here and talk about plowing you and filling your asshole with man plasm, and no one's gonna know. She's like, will you shut the fuck up? But that was my point.
At least she was paying attention to you, because it's when you're talking to that person and then they look up and they're like, huh? Like, I've been talking for 5 minutes.
Which that's kind of what happens now.
Yeah.
But one thing that people believe that could be that could explain the absence of intelligent life is basically there's something called a great filter, which basically it's a way or a barrier to life that once you hit it, you're either going to cross it, and then basically your species is going to continue to proliferate, or it's going to wipe you out entirely. So that's kind of a dark concept, because if you think about the universe and think of the amount of things that are trying to kill you. I mean, there's supernova, gamma rays, rogue black holes, asteroids, planetary collisions, superbugs, which, I mean, think of MRSA and think of how ubiquitous that is, disease, solar flares, self-imposed destruction. I mean, the amount of things that try and kill us, like existing.
Space itself.
Yeah, space itself.
Yeah, just trying to travel through it.
If you actually sit there and you think, holy shit, how are we even alive right now? It's basically trying to exist is like trying to live through a Final Destination movie, and I think that's a very accurate description, because everything wants to kill you all the time.
A really neat concept too, or a really neat idea to think about as well, is like, you could have advanced civilizations, but depending on the planet that they spawned on, if the gravitational force is like 2 Earths, and they have, like, say, the same resources that we have, like maybe oil is just what you find on every planet, like, that has ecosystems and shit like that over time, and maybe they're using the same fuels and stuff like that, but if their gravity is like even half a G more than us, it takes more energy to actually get out of their atmosphere. And then if you go like double the G, well, now you're expending twice the amount of energy. So there might actually be like advanced civilizations that are just planet locked, like they can't physically get off of their planet.
Yeah, that's very much a possibility. And when people talk about intelligent life too, it doesn't necessarily have to be people with. It doesn't even necessarily need to be what we consider like humans to be. I guess they don't need to be these anthropomorphic bipedal beings. I mean, they could be something like, I don't know, Mars cats or some shit. It doesn't necessarily have to be us. But that kind of leads me on to think that it kind of makes me wonder if we have a species have passed the great filter. What do you think? You don't think we're there yet?
Oh god, no. We're gonna wipe ourselves out by the end of the year.
I mean, we're well on our way there, but it leads me to believe that what if all the mass extinction events that Earth has incurred over the last couple 100,000 millennia, what if none of those were what they would consider the filter? Which is kind of a horrifying concept, because that means there's still something that we haven't experienced yet that's going to wipe us out.
Yeah.
I thought we were already overdue for another extinction event, because they happen every so often. Like, there is a pattern to it.
I think it's like 200 million years or something like that.
Yeah, and like, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to be due for one already, and it just hasn't happened. I don't know if it was an extinction event or like, I mean, I think they more specifically said an ice age.
Yeah, I know we're overdue for an ice age, but
Yeah.
the whole ice age thing is another contentious topic, because you have the people who are for global warming, then you have the people that oppose it and just say
How-
it's
How can there be an ice age if the planet's too warm?
yeah.
If everything's melting, how's it gonna freeze? I mean, that's just like boiling
Honestly, I
water
feel
on
like-
a stove and waiting for it to turn into ice.
I feel like climate change would just speed up the timeline for an ice age to happen, if anything.
That's what I
Because
mean.
the
That
planet's going to try and regulate itself at some point.
everything right now is, I mean, we're working towards several extinction events right now. I mean, between fighting off pandemics to everybody trapped in this, what I like to call like this verbal war of attrition, where everybody's arguing their values and everybody's more divided than ever. I mean, lately more and more people are finding reasons to want to kill each other, which is something that humans have excelled at greatly over the last few years. And that's something that the Great Filter also talks about. Like, did the species wipe themselves out? Was it gamma ray bursts? There's so many things that it could be. But there could be various other reasons why. But essentially, if we have not made it past the Great Filter, to put it colloquially, we're fucked. I mean, that's it. We're eventually going to hit a point and we're gone.
Could even be like, maybe when they hit AI stage, AI wipes them out.
Yeah, that's
And then just has no, like, why would AI feel the need to expand? Like, there's no, they gain nothing out of expansion. So it's like, okay, we exist. We've got enough power. Let's fortify our existence and then be content. And they could just literally go into hibernation, wait until the end of the universe, and they'd be fine. Like, maybe that's what's happening with.
Yeah, and that's a good point to make, because that's actually something I didn't have jotted down on my notes, is because AI is going to reach a point of sentience, especially at the rate it's going, because things like I almost said Chad GPT.
That's the one I'm waiting for.
Hey, what's up, bro?
You want to know some shit?
Whoa, Chad GPT. Chill, bro.
No fucking chill, bitch.
It's just
like
a joke, bro.
You're just like my bully from high school, Chad GPT.
You want to continue using the services? Give me your lunch money, motherfucker. But think of something like Chat GPT. That's getting better and more advanced by the day. And that's eventually going to hit a point where, I mean, look what's happening in Hollywood right now. I mean, Chat GPT is essentially obfuscating writers, artists. When it comes to the movie industry, I'm honestly kind of concerned what that's going to look like within the next few years, because everyone in Hollywood's on strike. So what are we going to get for movies? That's going to lead to an economic crisis in the film industry, because movie theaters aren't going to be making money.
but they're probably going to make better movies.
You're kind of right. I mean,
It might actually give us what we want.
I always see the comparison between the Edward Norton Hulk and the Mark Ruffalo,
Yeah.
which I always preferred Edward Norton's Hulk by far. I don't care. Fight me. So moving on from the Great Filter and the Fermi Paradox, we're going to go into a myriad of other reasons why the alien life could be as clandestine as it is and why things aren't as straightforward with it as you think that they would be. Because, like I said, if this stuff exists with all the hands in the cookie jar that there is, I feel like there would be more people coming out, regardless of blackmail they may have over the individuals or the threats of violence. But I'm going to pass this one over to Mike, because if Egyptians were king of the Nile, Mike is the king of Nihilists. And here's one that he's a proponent of, and that's none of this stuff actually exists. It's just a government ploy.
Oh, God, yeah. Are we getting into, like,
You can get into whatever you want. You can get into me if you like.
Oh, Bud later.
Bud Light.
I hope my mom doesn't see this.
Don't worry, I'll see your mom later.
Oh, I'd like to see you try.
She won't know I'm coming. She won't feel it either.
Calling the police. And this is the last episode of this podcast.
Well, the thing is,
Ryan's
your
getting
mom's-
arrested afterwards.
Your mom's name is Susan, so when I am doing her, I can just feel like I'm doing my mom, and I'll feel less creepy about it.
This is the last episode. Ryan's getting arrested.
So back to aliens. Yeah, government conspiracy, cover-ups.
Government ploy, yeah. So the government ploy theory is one that basically states, is one that states that the government is fabricating this for insidious means, that they're essentially trying to obfuscate away from another more insidious issue.
Or even just using, like, Cold War tactics. Because, I mean, how do you best an enemy? Well, you become more technologically advanced than them, or at least claim that you have technology more advanced than them, and then it's basically it creates, like, a false sense of domination over your foe if they believe you. And I mean, they can say the same thing, but it just seems like during the Cold War, well, Jesus, even like World War I, World War II, Cold War, any war, the countries involved will kind of make false claims and try to make themselves seem like they're more powerful when they actually aren't.
So you're saying that they're going to inflate their technological
yes,
capabilities?
they basically, like, boast,
Embellish
false
it.
boasting about, like, oh, we own all this, we're going to crush you with this. I mean, like, look at the Ukraine-Russian
It's like, I got
conflict.
it.
It's just like...
That's a lot of fancy words when you could just say bluffing.
Or that. Yeah. But yeah, it's basically one giant fucking bluff. And it's like...
I'm just watching you try really hard to describe it, and you're using so many words, and you could just say bluffing.
I like to take the long route.
It's called the scenic route, Melanie.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I like to beat around the bushes, not go through them.
I like to eat the bush.
I just imagine you going out in the woods and just fucking eating.
Going around the woods rather than through them.
Just eating his way through the woods.
Yeah, so basically, you have these technological superpowers of the world embellishing their capabilities.
And I mean, the timing, like, of the Congress hearing and stuff like that now, it's just like, okay, the adversary, I guess, for today's, or the future conflict, I guess, that's brewing is US and China over Taiwan. And what do you know? Now the US is coming out like, hey, we have aliens. Like, here's all the footage. Yeah, we got bodies. We've got technology. Blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, China's probably sitting there like, do we have any of that? No. Okay, should we say that we have some of that so that maybe we'll scare them into thinking that we're more technologically advanced as well? But yeah, I think it's
In my opinion, that's the fact that if they're just using the bluff that they possess alien technology that is just such a depressing,
Oh, yeah.
nihilistic
Oh,
thought
yeah.
to have. Like, everybody's just lying just so they can push.
Capitalism.
But I mean, you gotta think like UFO, I don't know, exposers back in the day, like the government would basically run campaigns against them to make their or just flood the, I don't know,
Like
the
the
environment with
entertainment.
just bullshit.
Especially
Yeah.
the entertainment enterprise.
Yeah, they basically discredit everything and just make it sound so ridiculous that whatever people say are just like, oh, that guy's a UFO kook.
Yeah, see, you're making an excellent point, because even in the Congress hearing, which we're going to get into on the next episode, because I want us to have time to kind of flesh out these ideas as much as we can. In the Congress hearing, they basically play semantics around that when I think it was David Grush who's confronted with the question, has the government been running misinformation campaigns against their own citizens? Because basically, I mean, they're able to gaslight the public with the immense, because the Herculean power that the U.S. government has and all these different sectors of their government. And even if you also need to take into consideration, which is something we're going to get into a bit further down the list, that some people believe that there's deep governments. So there's actually governments that are above what you would call the president and stuff. So the president and everybody else would be subordinate to these higher. Think of like Illuminati stuff. I mean,
Trump's second military.
Or just
Trump
like,
runs the military instead of Biden, and the military that Biden runs is just a fake military that's not the real military. There are Trump supporters who believe that, by the way.
Either way, all wars is just a bunch of young people dying for the antiquated beliefs and contentious disagreements between various ways the society should function, between two old people just fighting while the young people get to die over it.
Imagine being so old that you can start a fight and then be like, yeah, but I can't actually go do it, so I'm gonna force my citizens to do it because they're young and healthy.
I'm gonna go eat Werther's and I'm gonna watch all the youngins die.
we need to kill these people. Why? Because they're different. Oh, so why are they different? Because they're not better than us. Okay. Why aren't they better than us? Don't know, just kill them. That's
'Cause
basically
I'm old.
what I see.
Well, he prays to Muhammad, and those ones pray to God. Well, aren't those kind of like the same people?
I have to while we're on the topic of war, I have to say this. Ever since I was
What is
a
it
kid,
good for?
when I was a kid, I thought that war, every time I heard it, I thought that it was a big tug of war game that happened. I thought there was a huge chasm in the ground full of spikes, and each country would stand on a side and play tug of war, and if you were a casualty in war, it's because you fell off into the big pit.
Now
And I got my sister to believe this too.
Damn. That's
Nobody
intense.
nobody ever explained what war was to me. Other than oh, your grandfather fought in the war. That was the extent of what I knew of war. So it's oh, so people go and they die. And that's all I knew. So my mind was big tug of war.
So you're just picturing your grandfather just pulling on a fucking rope.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I thought people did.
He pulled thousands of people.
Yeah. Like you've got a country's worth on either side pulling on this rope.
It's a long rope.
All of the casualties were just people that were placed in the front.
That just sounds like that episode of Squid Games when they're all playing tug of war on over that giant pit or whatever. Not a pit, but they were elevated on these things. And oh, Melanie, thanks for sharing. I'm glad
that was enlightening.
You're welcome.
Yep. My great-great-grandfather stormed Normandy and played tug of war with some Germans.
Podcast adjourned.
That's it.
That's it. We don't need to do any future episodes.
That's
we have peaked.
That's a conspiracy theory right there we could cover.
Everything's just a tug of war. Oh, shit. I like it.
I like that one, though.
That was a nice one.
I genuinely believed that's how war was fought. For like the longest time.
The longest time.
I'm not that smart. So UFOs, huh?
Yeah, UFOs.
Yeah, tug of
Government
wars, huh?
UFO aliens?
misinformation.
Yeah, it's just that whole thing of just the government employee.
There's
Just-
also like multiple, like you mentioned that there are like different kind of sectors of the government kind of overlapping each other, and it's you gotta think like
Like a
dealing with any system, like even here in Canada, like CRA, healthcare, school systems, fuck, banks, like they don't communicate. Like there are people that are incompetent at their job, or they just don't bother communicating with like the people that they're supposed to be communicating with. And you gotta think like if these people exist at a low level, they probably also exist at a higher level. And the organizations probably also they're obviously like or obvious clearance levels. So maybe one organization can't tell another organization what they're doing, whereas that organization can relay some of the information back, but not all of it. So it's like these guys have somewhat of a knowledge what these people are up to. These people down here have no idea what's happening up here, while the people up here are also in the dark about some of the stuff that they're doing down below. So it's like, and then you put multiple levels on that, and it's just like, how do you?
what you're saying is like a bureaucracy sandwich.
Yeah, it's like you can't. It would be impossible to keep tabs on what's happening.
And like one of the things that they mentioned during the congressional hearing, which is something we covered in the previous episode of the podcast, is the misallocation of funds, which is something we'll get into a bit more down the list as we go through these. But it's just like you said, there's just so many layers of bureaucracy, and there's so many people that this stuff kind of passes between. Who's to say that if this whole thing is a government employee, what if the government just wanted to allocate funds towards the military and further more military projects, and this is just all a matter of national security, and they don't want their secrets leaked?
Yeah.
I mean, to me,
Let's boost funding.
I'm personally not a proponent of this theory. I find it, not only is it too depressing to think of,
It's too real.
It's too real. Yeah, it just kind of sounds like a Bourne movie or something.
Yeah.
It's just,
Where's the excitement?
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Just a
I hope
bunch of
I
old
hope
men?
it. I hope it is aliens.
Where's
Just a
the
bunch of old
ET
men
stuff?
walking around lying to us?
Where's the ETs to fuck?
Yeah.
Can't go in the fuck Joe Biden. What's the fun of that?
Yeah.
Row on row of probes, man.
He'll just
of
die.
different sizes, shapes, colors, sounds.
He'll just lean over and smell me. I'm sorry that
Conveyor belt of
He-
just
he just kind of reminds me of the Dalai Lama in a way. Suck my tongue.
Just a
Everybody forget
sack-
about that. Everybody forget
just
about
a
what the Dalai
sack
Lama
of
did.
bones moving around. That's how I imagine him, because he's just so goddamn old.
So when it comes to the government employee theory, do you guys believe that that's plausible? Is that one that you're
I think it's
personally a proponent
Plausible, and I don't like it.
it's happened and is probably also happening right now. Now,
I'll-
to what extent?
of? I mean,
knows?
that's one good
I
thing
will
to mention.
hope that it's not.
If there's one good thing that the government excels at, it's lying and making erroneous statements and discrediting people. I mean, if you look at during the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, the U.S. government were complicit in some pretty abhorrent things.
Yeah, like not letting me vote.
Yeah. Can't believe they made that mistake.
It is a mistake.
Yeah, they if you just to name a few off the top of my head, it's not stuff that I'd say that I'm information that I'm super privy to. It's stuff that I definitely got to research again. But MK Ultra, Operation Paperclip, eugenics, shit, I can't remember what they're called.
fuck
Schools
is-
that they send you to make sure you conform.
Confirmation school?
Yeah.
Or
Reform
reform
schools.
What
I
the
mean,
fuck is Operation Paperclip?
basically,
Came up with that
the
name.
Nazis?
yeah, basically the USSR and the US essentially had I don't know if the correct thing to say a war, but they were trying to procure Nazi scientists from one another. So there's basically this race to see who could get the best Nazi scientists and bring them over and start working on their
Why
own
would
projects.
you call it Paperclip?
That's how NASA started it.
Why wouldn't you call it something cool?
Like,
Operation Seacam!
Whenever I hear Operation
Operation
Paperclip, I think
Stapler.
about Clippy. Clippy's involved.
are you talking about like the Windows helper?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's
For
awesome.
anybody listening to this right now, can someone please take Clippy and put him in a Nazi uniform? Have him live in Argentina. Yeah, so I think we're all pretty much in agreement that the government ploy horrendously depressing to think about, but definitely plausible because it's in the U.S. government's playbook, and not even just the U.S. government. I believe all governments are capable of this sort of
They know how to rally and divide.
erroneous misinformation.
Yeah.
Which leads us on to our next one, which is a government cover-up. And I don't think the government cover-up theory is one that we need to delve too deep into because I'm pretty sure it's one that everybody's aware of. It's the
Roswell.
most ubiquitous and prevailing theory, even from my empirical evidence, just speaking to people, looking stuff online. Government cover-up is... honestly, it's probably one of the more likely theories. And when I say government cover-up, I should say governments because China, USSR, and the US, and I'm just going to group Canada in there as well because when I talk about just North America in general, I should say, they're all pretty much, in my opinion, complicit in covering this stuff up. But I know that the USSR declassified all their information on UFOs that they had, and there were some pretty insane things. Like, I'm just going to digress here for a second, and I might not be retelling this story accurately because I only heard it once a couple of weeks ago. So, one of the stories is that some USSR soldiers were underwater exploring when they got attacked by something. Something attacked them and killed them. There were several of them that were killed by this USO, I guess, which is unidentifiable submersible object. It was some being.
Megalodon.
No, it was. I think they described it humanoid-like. That it just
Mermaids.
slaughtered all of them. So, I'd say that every superpower is probably withholding some type of information regarding
Jason
this because
Momoa.
I can't remember if we're going to get to this further down the list or not, but it's something that I'm going to mention here now. But you believe it's actually something I hadn't heard of until you brought it up to me, and I thought it was one of the most interesting theories. And I didn't really hear about something similar to that until I was listening to a podcast on Tom DeLonge, and that's something a character we'll get into probably soon. And it's the concept that the reason why this stuff isn't coming out and isn't as available as you think it would be is because there's an arms race, like an alien arms race for each superpower to try to make contact with.
Okay, yeah.
So I'll let you get into that since that was your theory, and it was a very interesting one I'd never heard of before.
That's kind of where I get back to the government boasting, or what did you call it? Bluff. The government bluffing.
Even I
maybe-
forgot the word. I was going to say bullying.
I almost blanked.
You said, what did you say? And I was going to say bullying?
So maybe aliens have actually crashed here, and it's, you hear about the government kind of swoops in right away and kind of contains the area, clears out any locals. basically blackout media. And you also hear of stories of other countries' agencies trying to sabotage these areas, like trying to get in, collect information. I mean, think of like the atomic bomb. That's how the atomic bomb went from only being the States to also being in Russia or in Russia or the USSR, because a scientist seen this and was like, hey, they need this too, because you can't just have one person with this power, and gave it to their country. Next thing you know, you got an arms race. So maybe we'll go back to like Roswell. That's kind of the first instance of like a crashed government cleanup of a UFO that I'm aware of, or that I can at least think of now. And maybe that was a UFO, and like all the technology that we're seeing today, or at least 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. Well, when was Roswell? 70s? 60s?
1947.
Oh, it was the
I think.
40s. Okay. Okay, yeah. 50, within a 50-year time period. Maybe all the technology that we're seeing, and the reason why we're just like skyrocketing up with our advancements, is because of like these crashed UFOs and the components that we've kind of like reverse engineered off of them. And I mean, I can't name them off my head, but there are a lot of instances or stories of crashed UFOs, and then just like government scooping them up and taking them. You'll see videos and pictures of like giant 18-wheelers going down a highway with like a UFO shaped object under a tarp, with like military convoy following them and leading them. So it's like, what the fuck? And this is like in multiple countries too. And there's instances where, like you mentioned, like Russia, stories in Russia, and I think there was like, what was the one that I heard recently? It was a UFO crashed in the woods in Russia, and the soldiers came out and they see the spacecraft, and like, I don't know, humanoid aliens come out of this ship, and they form into like a ball, like a bright ball, and then the ball like it starts expanding and then just explodes. And I guess now I could be mixing up the story with another one, but I'm pretty sure in this story all the soldiers turn to stone, and they're in like a lab or something being studied.
So what if this was Medusa from Greek mythology?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's what a lot of like, historic, I don't know what you call them, like alternative historians or pseudo
Yeah, like
story.
some people say like UFOs in antiquity, or ufologists, or just like, I guess like just some type of alternative historian, like you were saying.
Yeah, like you look at any culture and like religious texts, just any form of historical scripture or illustrations, and you'll see weird flying shit in the pictures and paintings, and it's just like, well, what's that? Oh, that's an angel, or the whoever from our culture that came down and gave us the path to enlightenment or something like that. It's like, that looks like a ship.
I'm a huge proponent of
Yeah.
the belief that a lot of religions actually do worship aliens. To me, that just seems something that's very plausible.
Yeah.
Because back then, what else would people view something like that? I mean, especially in when you're talking about antiquity, most things were explained via supernatural ways, whether it be, it's demons possessing them, or it's, especially when in regards to mental health, because in regards to mental health, it was an unexplainable phenomena.
It goes back to like, they wouldn't be able to comprehend what they're seeing. And it kind of goes back to like the last podcast we have, like when the conquistadors showed up on the shores, the natives were just like, what the fuck is that? Like, are these gods? Like,
Yeah, I personally have always loved kinky stores.
What the fuck is that? Why is that man so white? So
like it.
But-
one of the things that you said, and I can't let this go. I've tried. I can't let it go.
Okay.
You said technology is advancing, and maybe it's because of like alien technology that they found. Does that mean that because we found aliens, we don't live in the Fallout universe? Because the Fallout universe is because what was it? They like made that, what is it, like a battery or something? They were able to like make them smaller.
Fusion core.
They
Fusion
made
core.
them, well, like
They're basically mini nukes.
Yeah, that
the
power
reason
Yeah.
that they advanced down a different road than we did, and why they're stuck in like the 50s, is because they weren't able to make that power source smaller the way that we did, and that's how they explain why they're stuck in time, kind of. And why they're stuck in like the 50s is because they weren't able to condense this power source into something smaller. So is that why we live in this universe and not in the Fallout universe, and therefore we aren't in an apocalypse because we found aliens?
You just got Todd on the mind. So just to give people some
really want to play
backstory,
Starfield?
Fallout is a game that takes place in the 2090s or something, or
Yeah, something like that.
well, there was a nuclear war or something that happened. I'm not
China
as savvy with Fallout lore.
There's like a nuclear war between the US and China. And the whole, like, the US is stuck as if it is in the aesthetics of the 50s.
Yeah, even though the game takes place or the war happened in the
Yeah.
2070s or the 20...
And it's because they weren't, because as I'm pretty sure the reasoning is like how we were able to make things smaller, like computers got smaller, we were
My
able to get
penis.
phones and stuff. Yeah, Ryan's penis gets small. Like we were able to just
Fucking aliens.
condense a battery or like a power source of some kind and make it smaller. And we kind of moved out of like having the larger, chunkier, like clunkier appliances and stuff like that, because we were able to make things smaller and still have them run just as well or better. And I'm pretty sure that was the reason that they used for explaining why it was stuck in the aesthetic that it was. And the whole games take place after the war has happened, and you're exploring the wasteland of what is left, because
After the
essentially
nukes.
nukes were just dropped sporadically across America, and it was from China that caused
China.
it was just a big World War III between the two of them, and China just nuked them.
One thing that I'm glad we don't have from that universe is
The Chinese.
fusion core power
Yeah.
cells in all of the vehicles.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god. Could you imagine like getting T-boned and then just a fucking mini nuke
just
going off?
blows
It's
up.
like, all right,
half
well,
the fucking street.
you know,
It'll be like when you die in Death Stranding. It just
Yeah.
leaves a giant fucking
I could
crater.
just have whiplash, but nah, just
They've been
obliterated
vaporized.
like the elementary school. Like right next door. It just sounds like a bad idea. And that's what it would take. Honestly, like what you did that in the middle of an middle of fuck nowhere, go up to Newfoundland.
Everywhere would be gone except
Where there's,
for, like the wilderness.
Yeah, but it would, and this is kind of getting political, but here, like, couple people die, couple adults. You know what? They could probably spin it off and be like, nah, it's the driver's fault. The cars are fine. Like, keep driving.
Oh, absolutely.
Blows up in the middle of a city, maybe take out a subway. It's fine. It's good. You blow up a. I don't want to say it. I've already said it.
A school.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
if you're in America,
they would stop.
if you're in America, they don't give a shit.
Yeah. Oh, true.
Did you
Yeah.
guys see the South Park
True.
episode on
They
that?
just put metal detectors.
It's so funny.
The one
Yeah.
where they
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I'm pretty sure I watched that here.
I just watched that episode recently. It was so
Yeah, I'm pretty
funny.
sure I watched it with you.
Everyone's just so jaded.
I think we can agree that when it comes to the government cover-up theory, that's probably one of the most plausible explanations for if there are actually aliens visiting us and they have crashed and what have you, that the governments are just trying to keep it covered up. And I got numerous reasons as to why that would be a bit further down the list when the more topics we get into. But the whole government cover-up theory is one that's it's so nuanced. Melanie, put your fucking hand down. I'll get to you in a minute. The whole government cover-up theory is one that's very nuanced, and it can go down so many different roads because it's like deep black budgets, murder, clandestine governments that hold the actual power. I mean, there's so many different avenues this theory could take, and we could probably sit here for like another several episodes just exploring each one of the different government cover-up theories, from like private sectors, like I said, other alternative forms of government that hold the actual power, and mercenaries and rogue military agencies. I mean, it goes on and on.
Man, that I can't remember who.
Melanie had her hand raised.
Oh, yeah,
you have
yeah.
to go next.
Do you wanna
Yeah.
go? Do you want to go? Yeah.
It's my turn to talk.
Yeah, you go.
So on the topic of the government.
All right, Mike, what were you saying?
On the topic of the government, you had mentioned something earlier and it made me think about this. Part of me feels like the government isn't capable of like covering shit up and being a
you're
deep,
right.
like having a fucking deep state.
Yeah.
Because the government, like, I compare it to like us being kids and then the government is an adult. So like as a kid, you think adults are so responsible and they know everything and you can trust them. And then you grow up and you're like, wow, that's what it was like. They knew nothing. They were idiots. And I feel like that's kind of similar where like you believe them
What if it?
to be so responsible and everything. And then as you grow up, you're like, holy shit, these people are idiots.
Now, to build on that, have you guys noticed, and you don't have to answer this, but people of higher authority or higher standings seem like they're less competent?
I think that's
And maybe after like a certain level of incompetence, you just like it's like an illusion of competence. So maybe they're like what you said, they're just fucking idiots, but they're so stupid that it works.
yeah, Mike.
I mean, Donald Trump was able to become president.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
that-
he played the system. Super.
that's something that like I'm not going to be partisan towards Democrat Republican, because honestly I really don't care
Yeah.
about American politics. I don't even really care that much about politics in general. It isn't until the last few months I started having more of an interest in Canadian politics. But whether you're Democratic or Republican, in my opinion, from the clips and stuff that I've watched from even partisan sites, Joe Biden is not cognizant enough to be a president. I don't want to go into the things he's done in life or his past doings, or the Hunter Biden stuff. I honestly don't give a shit about that. Just like empirically, he is not competent to be president, and a lot of people do think that it's Kamala Harris that is the one that's actually pulling the strings and has the most. I guess she's the one who's actually president, while Joe Biden is just there to
Yeah,
Well, I
essentially
mean,
be puppeted
Think about
around.
it this way. Would you
And-
rather it be her? Would you rather be governed by a woman? Would that be so bad in comparison to a guy who very clearly mentally like isn't there anymore? Like, is it so bad that a woman is like, yeah, I'm telling this man what to do because he can't fucking do it. He doesn't know where he is.
The answer
Grandpa
is,
wandered out of the house, and now I gotta do his job for him.
I just shit my bed.
Like, sure, it's possible that she's pulling the strings from behind, but like if she wasn't, then your alternative is a guy who is like maybe like using a quarter of what he would normally be able to do in brain power because he's just so old that and like demented he can't.
and that gets
anymore.
back to my point of these elderly people being elected, who are, in my opinion, their views and values are antiquated, and they're trying to understand a society that they will never understand.
Well, that's
it's something
the thing,
that
right?
they've never.
Isn't the age like requirement to be presidents like fucking like old?
Yeah.
Like 70 or something?
I mean, that's one thing I'll credit Canada for is I find that Canada, at least
We have
over the
young
past
people at least.
little while, we've had people who are reasonably aged as prime minister. I mean, Stephen Harper wasn't that old when he got in, and then Justin Trudeau was also very young, and Pierre Poilievre, who's running for the Conservatives right now, he's only in his mid 40s. In my opinion, that's the age that people should be getting into politics at because they're able to grasp these concepts. I mean, I don't know enough about Biden stuff, but it lends credence to the belief that these governments are actually just subordinate to
Yeah. If
more
you
clandestine governments who are actually in charge of things.
if you objectively look at and listen to a lot of leaders, you just like, how the fuck did this person get where they are? And
I
there's
want-
just like they couldn't. That there's no way that person got there by themselves.
And you know, Trump was kind of was an atom bomb to that whole concept. You know, you can hate Trump. I don't really care. I don't have much of a comment on him. But the only thing I will say is he's a fucking genius when it comes to playing the media.
Oh, yeah.
It's so
playing
funny
the
to watch.
system.
Like playing the like legacy media in particular. It's
Like he's outright said that he's played the system. And it's just like
Exactly.
that's how he became president. Like
I want you to think about all of the presidents that you've seen recently and think about their age, okay? The required age, the minimum age that you can become president at is 35.
which is still quite young.
that seems like a
And everybody that gets elected is super old. And I didn't think about this until right now because I read something, but then it sparked a little something up in my brain.
There was signs of life in there.
Yeah, something came to life in there. A lot of the voting populace is from the baby boomer era.
Yeah, most people don't
So
vote.
they are voting because they see other people of their age.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, I'll take that one." And so all of the presidents that are getting voted in are old because old people are the ones voting.
Yeah,
them.
they're
There's just an abundance of old people voting.
they're potentially more malleable, especially someone like Joe Biden, who's he looks like he just opened up the Lost Ark and looked inside of it.
He is
fucking
77.
ancient.
He is 77 years old.
He looks older than that.
He acts like he's,
but
Wait.
I mean,
He looks
yeah.
like he's that thing from the opening of Tales from the Crypt.
have you ever
But-
seen before and afters of like when
Presidents.
they get in and when they get
No.
out? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they age rapidly.
well, it's stressful.
yeah.
So aliens.
Well, yeah. See that. I know it seems like we kind of digressed quite bad there for a minute, but in my opinion, that was all kind of connected. Regarding the theory
interesting.
of government cover up, and that it kind of just reinforces the idea that these governments are easily pliable to something more superior. And one of the concepts is that there's this is something that Tom DeLonge propagates, and he's someone that I think we're going to do a whole episode on. I think we might do a whole episode on people who are intrinsically involved in the UFO UAP disclosure going on right now. And essentially he states that there's something called the others, and that governments have been fighting over the others and fighting the others for years. And he postulates that Atlantis was a real place that was able to combat the others. And, well, eventually they lost. Shocker there. Spoiler alert. And essentially that's what they believe is happening now when it comes to alien tech, is that the world superpowers each have alien tech, and they want to see who's going to use it, or they procured it by accident. One or the other. But yeah, that's something that they believe might happen. It's just a theory of his that I've only heard it in regards to his beliefs on a podcast recently.
So reptilians are real.
Yeah, whether they're reptilians or
He
not.
believes in reptilians. And
He's
they're
still-
fighting, and they're fighting the warm bloods.
Maybe it's Miss Frizzle's lizard.
Have you seen those
Maybe
videos?
it's Miss Frizzle.
Have you seen the videos of like people on planes just freaking the fuck out?
Yeah,
when
that
they-
man's not real.
Yeah,
Wait, what?
Like,
That man is not.
that's
You've never
weird.
seen
But
that?
have you seen the follow up video to that where they like try to find this girl and she just doesn't exist?
Okay, wait.
So this
oh,
girl was on a plane, and she was sitting next to this guy, and the gist of it is she like starts freaking out, and they get her removed because she's screaming that the man that's sitting next to her is not real, and that he's not a real person, and she's like losing her goddamn mind.
Yeah, she's doesn't she like scream like something about his eyes too?
Yeah.
Like it was the eyes that did it. I guess
I gotta
like
look this.
just
I
the
can't
way
believe
he
he
blinks.
didn't.
I think. But there's a
This
follow up
man
video.
is not real.
I can't remember the name of the YouTubers that do it, but they it must have been an article that they were reading or their own research. I'm not really sure, but basically
I forgot about this.
it boils down to the lady doesn't exist. She was AI or something like that, but
they interviewed her later. They found her and
Yeah.
they interviewed her later.
they did a cross examination of the video, the person in the video, and the person that they're interviewing, and they're not the same person.
Weird.
So
Because there's some like the facial cameras where it'll like
Facial
pick,
recognition.
yeah, it'll pick like I think there's like 18 points on a face or something like that. It's a specific number of points that has to correlate to with the image that this AI knows of for you. And if you get a certain number or above, then it's a match. If you get a certain number or below, not the same person. And I guess it didn't match. So they think, okay, well, maybe it's
That
a
this woman saw
government.
something
Yeah, it
that
might
she
be like a
shouldn't have
seen.
government agent, and they tracked the address to like right next to the White House. Now I don't know. It sounds fucking far fetched, but honestly,
So I forgot about
Pretty
this
cool.
tidbit of the story, but she was freaking out because she said that the plane was gonna go down.
Oh, not some Final Destination shit.
She
again.
said that the plane was gonna crash and it was that guy's fault and that he's not real.
Fuck. I never heard of any of that.
Really?
But that-
It happened like
It's
a
such a
month
weird
or
video.
two ago.
To me, that's analogous
It's
to the
pretty
whole
recent.
Paul McCartney is dead conspiracy. Have you guys heard about that one?
Yeah.
That's
So
the
good.
first thing that popped into my head when you guys said
Did
that.
you guys ever hear about the Avril Lavigne conspiracy?
Yeah.
Where she's actually dead and they've replaced
Yeah.
her.
So
that was early on too, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was
before or
like-
after Skater Boy.
That was like
Did she say,
that
"See
was
you
like
later,
before
boy," and-
2010s, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah.
So she did say "See you later, boy," and that
Yeah.
was it.
They think that she died. And then they just were like, well, get a new one.
I don't care, man. It's Avril Lavigne. If she is dead,
What?
I'll find her. I'll dig her up.
Okay. I thought you were gonna be like
I'll embalm her.
I thought
all
you were
right.
gonna be like, I don't give a shit. And I was like, there's
Oh
no
my god,
way.
no, Jesus.
There's no
So,
way.
I know we kind of digressed there for a minute, but to me, it's all intertwined, at least to our neurodivergent ways of
fun.
thinking. So, one person that I think we do need to talk about, and it's something that we're going to get into in greater detail when we talk about people who are intrinsically involved in this whole thing, and that's Stephen Greer, because he's a very contentious figure. And he has a few documentaries out that I want us to get together and watch at some point when we actually start talking about
That would-
Stephen Greer.
Can we get in the tent and do it?
Yeah, we can do whatever. We can do
As long
whatever.
as the bug mesh tent.
Yeah, we can do it out on the drive-in movie theater.
And then we can
screen
watch
that I-
Cars porn after.
Yeah, Cars porn.
Stephen Greer
Ka-chow.
porn.
Stephen Greer. So he's so Stephen Greer is a very contentious figure who states that he has a plethora of knowledge and that he knows all these people, that he knows how to contact these beings via telepathic communications. It's the stuff that this guy proposes is, if you just hear it, if I just try explaining, you're like, Ryan, you're a fucking idiot. Well,
I already think that.
Some people see him as like a messiah of this whole UFO movement, or some sort of like UFO prodigy, and that he has all these connections with these beings and all these people who are intimately involved in in this, I guess, like clandestine government stuff. It's so difficult for me to try to even comprehend, let alone explain the amount of, I guess, like honeypots this guy has his fucking hands in.
He's the alpha whistleblower.
He's
Yeah,
Winnie
basically.
the Pooh.
And he's made a lot of what he's made a lot of wild claims about.
Honeypot.
He's got his hand in all the
Find the
fucking
cookie jar. I don't know.
I can't. You just said honey pot, and it made me think about Winnie the Pooh.
And all I think about is later child.
God, I got this.
I mean, what?
I got this stupid hair antenna coming up the whole time. There we go.
Cowlick?
I'm probably gonna get assassinated for saying that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
good.
Stephen Greer's son, who claims that he has had people that he knows assassinated. He's a very interesting figure. That him, along with Tom DeLonge, I think we should cover
I have a quick question. Tom DeLonge sounds so familiar.
because he's the lead. He was the leader of Blink-182.
Okay, I was like, he's a fucking singer
and
for
he's,
something.
He's allegedly.
Don't waste your time. On
Yeah,
me.
he's allegedly. Actually, it's been proven that he's been talking to high-ranking officials in the
Yep.
government.
What?
Yeah, it was on WikiLeaks.
Doesn't he
Who
have
the
his,
fuck wants to talk to
doesn't
him?
he have his own like agency now? Like in that?
Yeah, he's involved
Or
in
he's running
something
it?
for the UFO disclosure.
That's just more.
I think it was him, and I think his name's Tom Elizondo. I know his last name's
Sounds familiar.
Elizondo. I think he's the leader of ATIP.
That's just more reason to not trust your government. Fucking Tom DeLonge is running aliens.
See, if it wasn't for Tom DeLonge, this whole disclosure thing may have never happened, because he's been campaigning for something like this for years, and he's just managed to get in and
That's just
speak to the right
so
people. And
wild.
and some people, that's something that they kind of rebuke him for, is because he's like, he can make a dick joke 1 second. This is an analogy I heard in a podcast. Let's do. He make a dick joke 1 second, and then he's talking about these beings that are invading Earth or have invaded Earth
So
and have been
you.
here for some time. Yeah,
That's
my
basically
fucking
all of
Can
fist
you
is gonna
imagine-
invade your face.
Can you imagine, like, you're a politician and you take your daughter to, like, a Blink-182 concert and she has a meet and greet with fucking Tom DeLonge, and then he's like,
Emphasis on
I'm
the
gonna
meat.
take this opportunity to talk to this high-ranking official about my opinion on aliens, and then
It's-
it just fucking spirals into all this shit.
It's actually a very interesting story, and when we talk about these people,
How correct was I?
not very.
I was
It's something that he's been intricately involved in the whole UFO thing forever. He's espoused himself with this ever since he was a kid, and basically has a library of UFO stuff. He's in his head.
what a fucking dork.
So according to Stephen Greer, only sociopaths are accepted into these clandestine governments or organizations that have disregard for human life and will not hesitate to do the wrong thing. So basically means, at least things that he's stated, all patriots are vetted out of these programs, because if you're someone who's going to be like, yeah, fuck yeah, country, my country, woo, these places don't want you. They want people who are not afraid to lie, deceive, and kill. Rank, accolades, standing in government, military means nothing to these organizations. And there's one person he spoke to who was very prominent in the British military who had no idea any. This is all alleged, by the way, from Stephen Greer. And to me, he comes off, from what I've listened to him, comes off very pretentious, kind of sanctimonious, and some of his things involving, like, I guess, to generate revenue off this phenomenon, it just comes
He
off
looked
as
like he was enjoying himself the whole time.
it comes off as very disingenuous. But we'll have to get in more on him later. But in regards to the government cover-up theory that we've been on for quite a while now, I think we can all agree that this is probably the most likely scenario that's happening right now, whether it's a deep government or the government that is, that we vote in and everybody sees the typical democratic government. What do you guys think? Anything you want to add on that concept?
What if COVID was alien weaponry?
Don't fucking get me
COVID
started
was
on
a
the
cover
pandemic.
up because alien shit was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was alien shit. An alien shit somewhere and someone
Yeah.
got infected
And
by it.
somebody fucked
Somebody
an
ate it?
alien.
Someone fights it. They couldn't eat it. So they fucked it. That's why I say humans are only interested in two things. Can I fuck it or can I eat it? If it's not one of those, they don't care.
Yeah.
Why do we like dogs?
Because you can eat dogs and you can fuck
We
them.
don't do that though.
You don't do
don't.
that.
I'm concerned you own
Not
two
with that
dogs.
attitude.
You own 2 dogs and I don't want you to own them
Yeah,
anymore.
why do you think I got her fixed?
We're moving on.
Okay. So fuck, I almost have to take a recess off of that one. I just thought about my dog. Now I'm getting a little stiff.
Never mind.
Just- I'm just doing this to
The
gross out Melanie.
The podcast is over. This is it. We're done.
It's just beginning.
Melanie gets a phone. I'm not even live streaming. Melanie's going to get a phone call from her work. Yeah, you're fired. So the next theory I want to get into, bestiality aside, is the reason why we haven't seen any extraterrestrials is because we're not that special, except Melanie, who's very special and looking
I'm
at a
so
poster on the
special.
wall. She's not
Yeah,
even
I
paying
just
attention.
noticed it now.
That's been there.
Yeah,
for like
I'm only
2
noticing
months.
it now. Okay, I am special.
She's on the spectrum.
Yeah.
And not the Roy G. Biv one.
It kind of goes back to like, how long has the radio broadcast been out? Probably like, what, 120 years, maybe?
Melanie, can you fact check
Before
that?
that?
How long has radio been a thing?
Definitely hasn't been.
While you're doing that, hold that thought. I'm going to go through the we're not that special theory.
Yeah.
So what this one states is that we as a species are just really fucking pretentious, and in the grand scheme of things, we're actually nothing special. So insignificant, we're not even worth the time. If the universe is indeed teeming with life, well, we're just would not make us very much of an outlier, especially if it's teeming with intelligent life, as some people state. And our bipedical pharmacological fueled asses may not even be a blip on the radar.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
And to me, that's very possible.
Yeah.
Is that if, I like to think of No Man's Sky, which is another game. There could be all these intelligent life forms out there. We just haven't reached their level yet.
Yep.
Which we'll stay on this concept very briefly. I'm going to let Mike finish his thought that he had. And then we're going to move on, because to me, that theory is pretty self-explanatory and not much to kind of peel back there, but we can talk about it a bit.
Yeah, to reiterate what I was saying earlier, like, we might not be able to comprehend what they're sending us, but what we're sending out to them, because I mean, like, besides Voyager and whatever probes we've sent out, or actually 2 Voyagers and whatever other probes we've sent out,
Yeah.
we've been basically broadcasting radio waves, and whether in the form of like actual radio broadcasts, like low wave or high wave, or short wave or long wave, we've only really reached maybe. Have you gotten a number yet for
So
about 180 years?
1974 was the strongest signal ever sent into space, but they say that it's been happening for over 100 years now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's at least 120, 130 years.
Yeah, you have to
Might
think
Nobody
be-
gave an exact
Yeah.
time frame for it.
There was AM. I think AM radio came first, and then FM.
Yeah. So whenever we started broadcasting around our planet would be when we started broadcasting to space and the universe. So we've only, and that's taking into account, like, this is straight, nothing in the way, like no rocks, no debris, nothing to bend or suck in the waves, just clear space in one direction. We've only gone maybe 150 light years. So we might have gone past
Yeah, I think
like maybe 20 star systems.
didn't the Voyager.
That's as far as we've actually broadcasted. So if there's no one within that distance of us, then of course they're not going to know that we're even here or care about us.
And didn't Voyager just Jesus, I want to fucking hit you.
I don't sometimes I don't want to interrupt you when you're having a thought.
Yes, Melanie.
So question,
Yeah.
two question.
Yeah.
First question.
Yeah.
They're broadcasting the radio
We're
wave
going to start
out.
with the second question.
I like it.
Okay, second question.
Second answer.
You broadcast the radio wave out.
Yeah. Yes.
Second answer. You broadcast the radio wave out. Is it? I gotta get up because I'm serious about this one.
Ooh.
Oh,
Is it
I'm excited.
being broadcast out in a cone or in a circle?
Circle.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would just kind of propagate
Yeah.
outwards.
Like it comes from a point, right?
Yeah, I usually do.
So let's say we'll use northeast, west, south, okay?
Yeah.
But in space. Let's say broadcasting out from North America. North America is facing north. Broadcasts out.
Mm-hmm.
Does it still reach anybody
But
south?
you have to think that.
Or does it only broadcast out from that point into a cone?
So with radio waves, you're actually bouncing off of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of Ving its way around the planet, ping-ponging, I guess. Or now that we have satellites, it just beams up to the satellite beams over to another one, beams to where it needs to be. Back then, it was basically like, okay, shoot it at the atmosphere. It wasn't reliable, probably.
Because
Wasn't
I'm just
reliable.
thinking about it if you were looking at it on like a two-dimensional, like
Yep.
looking at it as a map, and you broadcast it out. I'm about to show you how stupid I am.
Yep.
You broadcast it out from the north,
Yeah.
like the northern area. Would it reach the southern
Eventually.
portion of space?
Well, the thing is,
Well,
radio waves, they're limited to the distance they can travel. That's why I can't remember. This is like high school stuff I'm trying to remember. So the
It's been a
quality of this
long time, like
information has
20
deteriorated.
years.
No,
I don't
it's
like
been-
thinking about that, actually.
I graduated in 2012.
Well-
Not quite. But radio waves have a distance that they can travel.
Yeah.
That's why,
an
like,
effective distance.
because like if you think of FM radio, for example, they're limited to how strong their antennas are,
Yeah.
to how far they can
I'm
broadcast.
just thinking about coverage.
Yeah.
Like, is it when you broadcast it out, is it only going to us, like, not a specific area, but like pretty much like a specific coverage of space near us, like within a certain radius?
Well-
or is it going all over the place?
It would go all over the place.
Okay.
You're
Because
going all over the place.
it's
right
a vacuum.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to learn.
The reason why AM is like radio waves are so effective here, especially back in the day when they were invented, is because we've got atmosphere. So you can bounce off shit. There's particles. Depending on the weather, you'll either get a better reception, shittier reception. Now, once it escapes our atmosphere, there's nothing to slow it down. So it just goes off. It might get like pulled in by gravity of a planet or something like that, or bent. But you're talking about like an infinite.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
It's an infinite coverage of a bubble that's just constantly expanding.
Okay.
But it can only expand at the speed of light. And if we invented it or implemented it, say 150 years ago, I'll just use that as an example. I know it was somewhere around that time period, but it could only have traveled 150 light years to this day.
Yeah.
So that it's basically covering 300 light years. Like
And
the
even
bubble
then-
is that size. So if there's no one within that bubble, no one has a clue that we're
and even
here.
then, it's only going if it's going to hit a point eventually where it's only going to be able to reach the nearest galaxies like Andromeda and maybe a few other places in our local cluster, because right now the expansion of the universe is going to preclude anybody else getting these waves at this point. So,
And that'll be like millions, hundreds of millions of years
and the
down the road.
And the point that I got to make too is if these beings, which is I think the point Mike was trying to make earlier, if these beings are advanced enough, they're going to be communicating instantly, telepathically. That doesn't rely on the speed of anything. It's the speed of thought. So as soon as you think something, you're going to pick it up. So, oops, sorry. I just apologize to the microphone. It's the Canadian in me coming out.
Yeah, sorry, eh?
Oh, you'll do that, but you won't fucking apologize to me ever.
You didn't raise your fucking hand. You be quiet if you want to speak.
See?
You be quiet if you want to speak.
Ryan's not gonna last much longer on the internet.
No, that's it. I'm probably canceled already. But that's the great thing about starting out is that if we ever do go anywhere with this, like 50 years from now, people will look back on this podcast. Like, hey, remember when he said that?
Yeah. I'm so excited to write on your grave.
You're gonna
Misogynist.
Piss on my grave. Just piss one big M.
I would love to.
Misogynist.
Also, I'm glad we started with question 2 because I don't remember question 1 anymore.
Oh,
okay.
I was getting excited for question 1.
I gotta finish this thought. So,
and we're back to question 1.
Yeah, I don't remember question 1 anymore.
okay, yeah, I remember what I was
It's
saying.
fucking gone.
So essentially, these beings have progressed so much technologically. They're not going to pick up radio waves. It's nothing to them. It could be anyway.
I mean, they could still pick it up.
I remember.
It's just too
You made me
antiquated.
remember.
Okay, okay.
Question
You made me
1.
remember
Go,
question
Oh
go,
my god,
go.
quick. Yes.
So what if, because planets are, can you not?
Sorry, my balls are really itchy. They're like super itchy.
I'm trying to have a conversation here.
Question 1.
And
Question
dude's
1.
whipping his fucking dick out.
I didn't whip my
don't
dick
forget.
out. I used.
I remember. So, say we're broadcasting radio waves,
Yes.
right? What if, because all planets are going to be different, people are going to develop things differently. It's not going to be another just human civilization over again. What if they don't develop any technology? Like, say they're really advanced, but we can't conceive, like, how they did it because we don't have that technology.
Yeah.
And, like, we never will because it's just not native to us. What if they don't have the ability to detect radio waves?
And
What if they
be-
just never build that technology? Like, what if they're super advanced, but that's just not something that they ever fucking look at?
Yeah. That's probably that's a possibility. And I
This is
mean,
more of
maybe
statement than a question.
maybe they
but-
don't have like vision in the sense of like what we see. Like, just to use an example, the guy in where is he? Wedgeport? Where the hell is that observatory?
I don't know.
You know the guy that
I know
he's
what you're
technically
talking about.
blind, but he can see in UV.
Oh.
Yeah. So he's like,
Interesting.
he sees shit that no one else sees. And maybe
He can see
that's,
ghosts.
Kind of reminds me of Daredevil.
yeah.
That's
Maybe
actually
that's
really
similar to like, maybe they see a different wavelength of,
Yeah.
of light. So it's like,
and-
we're sitting here like shining lasers and broadcasting, but they're like, they don't see lasers.
I'm deaf and blind. I can't
Yeah.
see that.
Maybe they only
This
see.
whole civilization
Maybe that's
is
what Helen Keller was trying to. Synergy.
This whole civilization is just Helen Keller.
They might only see in gamma rays or
And
something.
zeros and ones.
I want
Or yeah. It
this
could be
is
just
not this
information.
is related to Helen Keller only, but I need to say this. I was watching an episode of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is an anime, and this guy was quoting someone, and he said that somebody was saying this this quote that's been passed down through like generations, right? Saying this quote to Helen Keller.
And you know, I just kind of had a thought. It's one that I've thought about before. Thoughtception.
Man.
But
Gotta think about that one.
it just reemerged when we were discussing that.
Discussing
And I always thought, like, you know, when you're walking And I know I'm someone who kind of zones out a lot. I'm always in my mind, usually thinking quite abstractly.
About Mike.
But about what?
About Mike.
Oh, I think very sinful
Oh,
things
man.
about Mike.
I'm blushing.
The
I'm blushing
Vatican,
on the inside.
if they knew what I thought about Mike, the Vatican would send someone.
Oh man.
But
Shucks.
what when you're walking around sometimes, and I know Mike, you also kind of you're off in your own head a lot too.
I do
and
walk around.
You, you see something in the corner of your eye. I'm kind of wondering what if it's not really anything based in science. It was just legitimately a thought that I had. What if you are seeing something that you're not supposed to see?
Oh, yeah.
And same thing with ghosts and stuff too. What if you're seeing another timeline? Like these people, you're not actually seeing dead people. You're seeing essentially another timeline. And I always thought, what if you see something out of your peripheral vision? You're actually seeing another dimension of being. Because, everyone always has that moment where you're like, what? You think you see someone out of the corner of your eye, you turn around, no one's there. So what if you subconsciously picked up on...
Tuned into another.
Essentially, yeah. And I know that's kind of I know I'm probably not making much sense, but
Yeah.
it's something that just popped in my head the other day because I was walking around work. I was alone, and I kept feeling like I was seeing something out of the corner of my eye. I turned around, nothing's there. And since we've been covering UFOs so much and kind of going through this topic, that was the first thing that popped in my head. What if we are picking up potentially things that aren't really there? And then that led me to another thought of hallucinogenic drugs, because I know this is kind of a digression. I apologize for that. But what if hallucinogenic drugs like LSD and magic mushrooms, they lead you to see things that our mind can't perceive, and these drugs unlock the ability to see this alternate dimension, like
That'd be
DMT
so cool.
and
And I think we should try drugs.
like DMT elves. Yeah, I've been thinking about a lot of drugs a lot.
But I'm
lately, too.
also like, knowing how my mind works and how fucking wild it will run, I'm also scared to try any hallucinogenic drugs because I'm certain that I will think that I'm going to fucking die.
If I do, I need to prep.
because
I think I will see something that I will be scarred by.
if like when we were talking, I'm going to harken back to our previous episode when we discussed the ultra terrestrial theory, which is one or I guess like alternate dimensional beings and such. What if when you take these substances, they, like I said, they're opening up your
Third eye.
they're exposing you to things that you're not really supposed to see. And this is very abstract, I know. But if you look at people who have magic mushroom trips, especially in a therapeutic environment with a trained professional, they come out like reborn in a way. They come out, it basically cures whatever ailment that they were struggling with, whether it be like alcoholism, because I know magic mushrooms are used to treat alcoholism. People take magic mushrooms and they have no craving for alcohol.
I hope that if I take mushrooms, it will just fucking cure me.
Have you?
Actually, I'm just gonna keep.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads me to believe that people come out and they have epiphanies, basically, and they give these drugs to people who are dying, and they no longer fear death. So I think the whole concept of hallucinogenic drugs is fascinating, and especially in relation to this topic, that we could be seeing parts of reality that are essentially hidden from us. But like you said, people have been getting, especially, I think it's more acceptable in Canada than it is in the States, because you can go get ketamine treatments. Because if people have taken, we'll say you've been through the whole gamut of pharmaceuticals, they'll send you to go get ketamine treatments. And people come out of those like a new person.
Yeah.
And honestly, could highly consider trying that. But then again, this is coming from someone who can't even handle a puff from a joint. So
Oh, that's a nice video idea.
I already have a video idea planned on hallucinogenics.
Just vlogging
Have you ever looked
vlogging
into
your reaction to drugs.
shared DMT experiences?
Yes, and that's something
Man,
else.
that shit's wild.
Like
I
the
think if we
DMT
ever-
elves.
Okay, I want to try this, but I think if we ever do, only one person should try it at a time.
Yeah.
The thing
because
is,
I think I will go off the fucking rails.
when you have a trip, and I'm gonna say this right now, you need to speak to somebody who is savvy with this sort of thing, like a medical professional, because there is a possibility that it could trigger psychosis,
Yeah.
and that's
Can't trigger what I already have. It's already there.
We're both
believe
just
it.
on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, think of the music the Beatles made when they were under the influence. I mean, they made some of the most revolutionary, paradigm-changing music in the planet under the influence of this stuff.
I'm just terrified that I'll look over at like Mike or something if I'm on drugs.
My
and
mouth just
like you just don't have skin.
or that.
Like you're just sitting there and you're just muscles and bones. Like I wouldn't put it past myself to like
So you're
look
saying
at
him just without
Ryan,
skin.
like look at Ryan and watch him fucking transform into like a fucking leopard.
So I was hoping you were going to say something useful.
I could see like
He just turns into the couch.
a mouth open and just like basically invert yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be fucked.
So I know the camera battery is probably going to need to be changed here soon, so we're going to quickly cover the next variant
no
of
tangent,
this.
Mike.
And no,
Can't promise
these are
anything.
good. In my opinion, these are really good because they're making me think a bit more of the different possibilities. And the mental health one, especially in regards to hallucinogenics, is definitely going to be a future episode. That's actually that episode idea was something that was kind of like a progenitor to this podcast, because that was kind of what triggered the thought of me, like, man, I'd love to talk in greater detail about this stuff. So
You'll never hear me shut up about mental health because boy, I'm full of mental illness.
that's going to be, I think that's going to be a big one. Definitely going to be
bigger than
multiple
the
parts.
UFOs.
Probably, yeah, because it's such a
9
nuanced and important topic, and that's something we're all going to have to talk about. But the next one, or next part of this, so we just finished talking about the one that we're not that special. We're just a blip on the radar, and I know we kind of went on a tangent from there. But another big reason, and it's another one that makes sense, is that it's our location. So our location in the Milky Way may also contribute to our views of a vacant universe. Our location is on the Orion arm of the Milky Way, which is basically we're in the butt-fuck nowhere of the
my
Milky
cat.
Way. Excuse me?
Because my cat's name's Orion.
Jesus Christ. Say, do you need a break? Do you need to go outside and touch the grass for a second? Yeah, we're in a relatively rural celestial neighborhood, so we might not have any neighbors. Our real estate in the Milky Way is just serene, I guess, peaceful. What do you guys think about that one?
It's definitely plausible. I don't know. I think it's more likely that just people don't want, like aliens are like, we shouldn't touch that right now.
Yeah, I think we're too primal at
You
this
gotta think
point.
too, like, say, we'll go back to the radio wave thing that I was talking about earlier, like the distance that
We're
we've
past
kind of
that.
broadcasted. Well, I'm bringing it back. Bringing radio waves back.
Oh, ghosts?
Okay,
Oh yeah,
Mike, can you
okay.
tell this story?
Okay. We'll time
'Cause it
out on
just
what I was
happened
about to
again.
say. Yeah. So me and Ryan, before we started the first podcast, we were talking about aliens and conspiracies and stuff like that, and the light started dimming.
Like it
At the
just
same
did now.
time, an ambulance siren goes off, and the dogs start freaking out.
All
And we just
In
stop what we're
unison.
doing, and we're like,
we were just waiting for Melanie to start the podcast because she hadn't gotten home yet.
yeah.
And then that happened. I can't believe we forgot to tell this on the last podcast. So we kind of kicked ourselves in the asses after. We're like, how the fuck did we forget to do that? But all in unison, those three things happened, and the lights just dimmed again. And this is something that never happens. The only 2 times it's happened is when we're talking about UFOs. Where the fuck's the tinfoil?
To be honest,
Actually, it was telling my arrival because I showed up right after that.
Yeah, and
I was around the corner and I passed the ambulance.
as you're upstairs, I asked her, and I'm like, "Oh, we'll tell you it during the podcast," and then we forgot all about
Yeah,
it.
I
and it's
never
like,
fucking found out. But apparently, it's just telling of my arrival.
Fucking
When-
diminutive attention spans.
when we went outside, to be honest, I expected to see a fucking mushroom cloud.
I thought, like, did we
Like-
just get hit by a solar flare
Yeah.
or a fucking EMP? But no, it was just Melanie, so even worse.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Enter
The real lesson we
driveway.
learned here is that I am an alien and I am able to affect the world around me
So back
when
to
I just show up in an area.
So back to what I was saying about the broadcasting. So because of this area that we're in, the star systems are like so far apart from one another, so it takes a lot of time and energy to get from point A to point B. If we want to go to even, we'll say, Sirius or Center, my God, what's the
Proxima Centauri.
Proxima Centauri? Yes, if we wanted to go there, it would take fucking forever with our current technology. Now, think of like if you think about light speed and just mass, if it's accurate that the faster you go, the heavier you become and the more mass you gain, to the point where you cannot physically reach light speed because of the mass. So like the heavier you are, the slower you're going to go. And the more energy that you're going to need. So it's like infinite amount of energy that you'll need to get to that point. And no one's going to ever reach that point. So even if aliens discovered us, say 50 years ago, they may be traveling to us, but they may not get to us for another like 300 years.
Yeah.
So it's like because of that distance. But you go further into our galaxy, stars are like borderline right next to each other. Have you played Elite Dangerous, or have I showed you the star map?
No.
And I blew Jordan's mind when I showed him that. I'm like, we're looking at our local cluster. It's a game on Steam and consoles, but you've got a 1-to-1 ratio of the Milky Way. And if you go into the map view, you can look at our local bubble, like the human populace, and it's like, okay, yeah, it looks like space. Like you can see all the stars everywhere. You go towards Sagittarius A, and it's like Christmas. Like there's just lights everywhere. You can't count the amount of stars because they're so congested. And that's that's an accurate depiction of what the closer.
A place like that may also reduce the possibility of life, though, because think of all the solar radiation.
Yep.
You're more likely to get hit by solar flares, gamma ray bursts. I mean, it's
So there might be a Goldilocks
There
zone
could be, yeah.
in galaxies as well as our solar system. Like we're in the Goldilocks zone of our solar system. That may also be part of our galaxy as well. So these outer arms, they're not hot enough to kill life, but they're also not cold enough to like keep life from forming. So maybe,
it's a good point.
but it's kind of like that shitty area as well for just like travel distance. It's just everything's so sparsely scattered.
Yeah, I think that's a good possibility, which might also explain why aliens may have visited us in the past, because they could have came here, maybe provided us with some technological advancements. You know, some people talk about Easter Island, some people talk about the pyramids of Giza. I mean, even potentially Atlantis, if that actually exists. There are a lot of cultures back in history who were quite advanced for their time. I mean, like if you think of the Minoans and stuff too, they were also very technologically advanced for the time. If you don't know who the Minoans are, they're kind of like a derivative of the Greeks, and they had things like plumbing and streets, like actual paved streets and stuff, very advanced, and they believe they were, I think, wiped out by a volcano, but I could be wrong on that, so don't
The
take what I'm saying for...
boreholes that you see in some of these places.
What about your hole?
The boreholes.
Whore
Just-
holes?
Just the like how smooth they're. It's like, how the fuck did someone
Love smooth whore holes.
cut through 7 feet of like solid granite with like a prehistoric tool
It's also...
and make it smooth?
We also should note that granite is one of the most rigorous and I guess strong. I guess what I'm just trying to say, and I'm having a brain fart, is it's one of the strongest stones
Yeah.
in existence. And I actually just listened to something yesterday, and they said if you go like 1,000, say humanity just disappeared right now, Thanos snapped out of existence, in 1,000 years, everything that's here right now will be gone.
Yep.
It'll be taken over by nature, and it will have deteriorated. The only thing that's going to remain is like missing Tupperware lids, cockroaches, and Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
Because Mount Rushmore is carved into granite. So Mount Rushmore is going to last for like 10,000 years or more before it starts. I think they say like
hundreds of thousands of years.
yeah, I forget what they said for granite degrades an inch like every 1,000 or 10,000 years. I know
And that's
misplacing a
if an
zero.
earthquake doesn't hit it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
But it just kind of gives you the idea of
Yeah.
how some of these structures still last and why their building techniques in the materials that they use in a lot of cases are more superior than what we have today. A big part of it too is that nowadays everything's become so streamlined, and that's a big problem with it. Everything's just looks the same.
yeah,
Everything's so samey.
pump it out as cheaply as possible, and then you wonder why everything breaks down.
Exactly. So we're gonna use this as a good point to take a quick break,
Yeah.
change the camera batteries, go take a pee pee, take a poo poo, any of those things that we need to do.
Can I pee pee on your poo poo?
Boo boo.
You can
Man, I want to.
you can
so
glaze
bad.
my poo poo.
Not that, but you know the voice.
Oh yeah, that'd be way too loud. in the mic.
Yeah, oh yeah, that would be.
All right, guys, we'll be back at you soon. All right, everybody, welcome back. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump right into the next reason why. So we just finished talking about our location, the Milky Way, could be inhibiting our contact with extraterrestrial life. So the next thing we're gonna jump on to is we're gonna talk about the Kardashev scale. So I have this one. I'll keep the camera on Mike here, and I'm going to let him lead the way on the Kardashev scale, but I'm just going to add beforehand, this is probably one of my favorite theories when discussing extraterrestrial life.
Level 1, fight. So, basically, level 1 Kardashev scale is you've gained all of the energy from your planet, or you've managed to extract or harness all the resources on your planet, on your host planet. So that's level 1.
So keep in mind, we are not a level
God,
1
we're
species, or
not
we're not a
even-
type 1 species yet. We're probably like 0.5.
Yeah, probably not even that. Maybe a 0.05. I mean, shit is getting less durable. it's rough. But yeah, so type 1, you've basically mastered your planet. Type 2, you've mastered your solar system. So Dyson sphere, it's basically expanse on crack. Like you've got every planet has something being harvested, or all the resources that you need from each planet or body is being harvested. You're in the Oort belt, you're Dyson sphere around the sun. You're basically the masters of your of your solar system. I know. I want to say it so bad. Now, type 3. Now you're masters of the galaxy. Like
He-Man.
you've basically expanded out. You've beaten down or subjugated or befriended every known species. You've populated across the whole vastness of your galaxy, of your local galaxy.
Yeah, so I'm going to guess that would also entail harnessing the power of the black hole
Yes.
too at the center.
Yeah.
Like you're able to extrapolate all energy from your solar system.
From the galaxy.
From the galaxy,
Yes.
sorry. That's what I
And
meant to
all
say.
the black holes that are also floating around in the galaxy. Like you've basically done everything you can in the galaxy. And then you have like type 4, which now you're getting into like the universe, or the I guess visible or known universe, depending on
And depending on, once you get to that
How
point,
you-
it could be all of the universe, because I mean,
Yeah.
we can only see it.
yeah. If the universe is infinite, well, I guess you'll never get there. You'll never
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah,
surpass.
that's a good point.
If it's finite, then okay, yeah, there is possible that you're going to basically dominate the whole thing, but Yeah, so level 4, you've dominated your known universe, or what you consider the universe. Type 5, you're getting into like time, multiverse, dimensions, shit like that. Like you've surpassed what we now today see as like reality. Like
Yeah, you've basically become you're basically become arbiters of your universe and multiverse and every universe that could exist. You're basically God.
that'd be level 5 would be God, I believe.
Oh yeah, we're still talking about 4. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Yeah, so basically type 4 you'd become arbiters of your own.
Yeah, you're basically dipping your toe into becoming a god, and then like you get into type 5, you're basically creating, destroying, doing whatever you want. Ultimate power. Does it go into type
Yeah,
6?
so what it lists here
Yes.
for type 6 is that civilization that exists beyond time and space
Yeah.
or in a higher dimension.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
That's where
that's when
it's-
you're getting into some things that we couldn't even possibly comprehend.
Basically
Cthulhu.
Doctor Who.
Yeah, Doctor Who's a good
Yeah.
analogy for that. But to my knowledge, I've just heard of cubes inside of spheres. I haven't heard of a blue telephone box, so still
would be
time.
awesome.
I fucking wish. Preferably
Oh, man.
like David Tennant came out.
If I heard the TARDIS right now, sploosh.
Ka-chow.
Okay,
It's like
Pam.
walks out, walks out. It's larger on the inside. Does the wink. What are you doing? Winking at you.
When you said "does the wink," I thought you said "dozoink."
The zoink.
I'm just doing all the reference. Yeah,
Like, what the fuck
zoink.
is "dozoink"?
But
The Jankies. My favorite duh is Django. Django.
Django.
such a good movie.
You made me think about something so stupid, like 2008 internet. Lajinkies.
The best time of the internet was the early 2000s.
Lazoinks.
Now, do you want to get into like a little bit of Fermi as well, or do we want to?
Well, I guess technically all this stuff is part of the Fermi
Yeah.
Paradox. So when it comes to the Kardashev scale, that's probably my favorite and my preferred methodology of explaining why we haven't encountered any of these beings yet, is that they're just literally too advanced for us to even comprehend. And
Or
They just
we're
don't-
the first ones.
or we could be the first
Yeah.
ones, which, Jesus, that's kind of frightening to
That's
think
a
about. And
scary
at the
thought.
pace we're going, I mean, we're
Yeah.
like, what, 30 seconds from midnight on the doomsday clock? Something like that. Can't remember, but I know it's fucking close.
yeah.
But yeah, that's something people propose. We could be the first intelligent species, and that the reason why none of this has happened yet is because, well, we're it. The other ones have been filtered out, or by
Well,
creating
they're just
like
primitive.
yeah, they could just still be they're just primitive civilizations, but there's so many galaxies that are so far away. The likelihood that we are the only ones, in my opinion, is there's has to be other life out there.
Makes no sense. Like, why? There'd be all of that, and then it's just like, everything else is just lifeless. It's like, what the?
And like
Why?
I stated in the last episode, is life is very persistent once it exists. It's going to do what it can and adapt to survive. I mean, they already have bacteria that eats plastics. You have bacteria or fungus that grows inside of Chernobyl reactors. I mean, life is it's a tenacious bitch.
I mean, as
And
long
that's
as
why we shouldn't bring the dinosaurs back.
the chemical components are there, it's almost it will happen. It's just it has to be
Just maybe not
The
in what we
yeah, like
Well, when you think about how life even became a thing on Earth, because like you could wipe out all life currently, but when you think
We're
about
working on
like
it.
when you go back to how life even started, like it was like fucking plants that grew out of like volcanic ash and what is it when it's above ground? Magma? Is that
Yeah.
magma then?
I think so.
Like
Yeah.
whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Like
people know
that's
what we're
where
talking about.
that was its living conditions.
Oh.
It grew from that. So you would have to absolutely destroy destroy Earth and make it nothing for life to not.
I mean,
I
yeah.
mean, even like
back.
you go into like the Great Oxidation, like shit like that. Damn near everything died, and you can see it when people
Yeah, like the-
are excavating like down there's a certain level, you'll see basically just rust. And it's like, what the fuck happened here? And then you measure the rest, and it's like, wow, that was a long period of just like shit's on fire. There's what, too much oxygen in the atmosphere, I think, and basically just everything burnt.
Well, that's
But yet everything bounced back.
that's why things were like, if you look back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, and if you look at the creatures from that time, they're far more prodigious than they are now. So they believe because of that, and it's actually something I like to think of when I play Monster Hunter, which is why they can kind of wield all these big weapons, and there's these monsters exist in terms of the game world, is because there was a higher oxygen content in the air, and the higher oxygen content, the bigger creatures will get. I mean, that's talking about land-dwelling animals, I should say, because of course, if you look in the ocean, colossal squids and all that stuff kind of exists down there still as well. So, but I think the Kardashev scales, if they do exist and we haven't seen them, I think that probably explains the Fermi Paradox. So at least that's what I like to think, because I think it's one of the least depressing theories.
I think one of my favorite, like I'll do one example of one of my favorites, is when you reach the level 4 is when you have universe. Is that...
Let's pop that up again.
It's either level 3 or 4. You've also, like, by that point you've also like created the fucking Matrix. You've got AI. You're probably no longer organic. Like you're inhabiting like mechanical. You're probably going digital. But there's a Fermi paradox theory where like a civilization might become like digitally sentient and basically create like planet-wide servers or planetary servers, or like have a solar system that's just dedicated to storing everything and everyone, defending it, but also like they go into their matrix, like this simulation that they've created, which allows them to basically just hibernate till the end of time. So basically they're...
So basically what this sounds like to me you're saying is they're inserting themselves into their own synthetic afterlife.
Yep, while not broadcasting. Because I mean, like if you're in hibernation mode and you're not aware of what's going like on around you, last thing you want to do is be broadcasting to potential enemies, because they come in and be like, oh, all these people are like in a server, blow up the server, done.
That's kind of a poignant thing to say too, because if we look at our society, we're gradually working towards essentially blending virtual reality and reality into one. I mean, I think we're going to hit to a point where the two are going to become almost indistinguishable, like Ready Player One level things, because all the tech giants who are currently working on augmented reality and glasses you can put on. I mean, a lot of people say that the new Apple headset that they're making, it's ridiculously expensive, but people need to realize this is a progenitor technology, and this is going to advance, and this is what humans are working towards, is blending our real life with this, which is a horrible fucking idea, and it's something I think people should be terrified of.
I mean, even like the chip there, what the fuck is it called? Elon Musk's chip.
Neuralink?
Yeah, Neuralink. Like you're basically integrating AI technology into your brain, basically.
Don't do it. You think
But
ads
also-
are bad on YouTube? Just wait until they're popping up when you're taking a shit and you're getting ads for toilet paper, and then you're at the hospital and waiting because you're dying, and then you're getting ads for fucking Viagra or
You're
something.
in the gliding suit and you're like weaving between trees, and then just like pop up. Pow.
I want the ability to, say that we could like telepathically just like project things to other people so they see them. I want to telepathically be able to project things that Ryan doesn't want to see into his vision. I
don't
want
know,
him
that's a
to
very
look at.
small list.
I want him to look at Tomater. Fucking Tomater.
You don't need to force me to watch that. I'll do that willingly.
Like, I'm stuck on Cars, but I want the ability to just mentally destroy someone by just, like, projecting images into their head.
So what you're saying is you just want to mentally cripple somebody by
Yeah, I
causing them
feel like
so
I'm not-
much psychological stress.
If I was given the ability to have superpowers, this is the last person that you'd want to have them.
You be the villain.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
just gonna become a villain. It's my own choice.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden I'm just sitting there getting groceries, and all of a sudden all I can see is like mom licking cum out of my grandmother's vagina, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm just walking the supermarket. Ah! Ah!
Everybody's like really confused why this man's just shitting and throwing up.
Why is she getting a bendy straw?
I can't not see it.
Why do I have a boner?
You know how people will take like they'll put like vibrators in and then it'll be like a remote control and then they'll go into public and it'll be like somebody else controls it and turns it
Yeah.
on and off. It'll be like that.
That's when you get Stockholm syndrome, and you just like every time you're in the company of Thanksgiving, just like you hear a thunk. Who wants turkey? Thunk.
Oh, shit. But do you guys have anything else to add to the Kardashev scale?
I think I've added plenty.
Yeah. Now I can think about is my grandmother doing
Don't
sacrilegious things.
Don't talk about it.
I want to think about
She was a pious woman.
pie-eating woman. But yeah, just to finish that off, I'm a big proponent of the beings being advanced on the Kardashev scale. That could be why. That's my favorite theory out of everything we've discussed, and I never get tired of learning more about the Kardashev scale and the type of beings that could exist the more you advance through it.
And I think we should never get to that point.
Do you imagine if like
We probably won't.
we're
It's-
just being controlled by aliens
It's-
that are on like level 3?
That could be.
Yeah.
I think we talked about something similar in the last.
Or
Yeah.
Jesus, even level 5 or 6? Because I mean, like any religion.
This is a simulation.
Well, religion. It's just
Yeah.
like
I mean,
these beings come down and it's like we're your gods.
I mean,
it's like oh shit.
if
Okay.
there's one theory that's nihilistic, it's that aliens harvest our negativity as power.
My God, man,
What
I'm,
we do
I'm
in
like
the
an
shadows-
infinite fucking power supply.
What we do in the shadows has these vampires, and they're energy vampires. And what they do is they don't like suck your blood or anything. They just feed off of the energy. So there's one guy named Colin Robinson, and he looks like an average dude in like just regular fucking like clothes. Like he looks like a fucking dork, and he just starts shit. So people will fight, and he'll just feed off of their energy. And he's bald. And there's one point where there's just so much conflict happening around him that he grows hair, and he doesn't fucking walk around anymore. He just flies everywhere.
For some reason, I picture this alternate. If in like this, if this is what's happening, Mike is like the Energizer Bunny, and he's their spokesperson or something. That's some Black Mirror shit right there. I don't like that theory at all. That's one I'm not too aware of, but man, I don't even want to
It
think
would
about it.
explain a lot of the division.
Well, I
in
mean,
the media and just in
I also
general.
think I don't really believe in that because I think humans are naturally just very negative. Negative and conflicting.
I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to
it's like-
disagree with you there.
So are you saying?
Okay, well,
I think if you take away the resources and you just put two people in, like, say you just give them an abundance of resources or just no resources, they're probably going to help each other.
I
Because they
think
realize
for
if-
some people, yes, that's very much plausible. But
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
no,
for
no.
the majority of humanity, it wouldn't be the case.
Or if you want to be nihilistic about it, place two people down. One dude's gonna pick up a stick. The other dude's gonna pick up a bigger stick. Then he's gonna beat the other guy to death with the bigger stick.
I mean, or you could rub the sticks together and make a fire.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say, oh, they could.
Put
Fuck.
the stick in your peel.
Rub their sticks together and fuck.
That's what I thought you were. That's what I thought you were
They're gonna
getting
rub
at.
their dicks together, and it's gonna create a spark.
Hey,
and
who wants to duck?
It's gonna create fire.
Just by vigorously rubbing their foreskin.
Neither of us
Yeah.
have foreskins. How are we gonna duck?
How do you know? I might.
Get that squirrel over there.
Sucks to suck, I guess.
Wait, if they're the only two dudes on Earth, if
With
they're
no
the only two
foreskins?
being, would they be born with no foreskins?
Oh,
We're
yeah.
getting
Oh, yeah.
okay. Maybe we're getting a little too sidetracked on that thought.
I
No,
don't
this is an
think. I
important-
don't think lack of foreskin is like a hereditary thing. I think it's like I don't think it's an evolutionary thing. I think it's just there.
I think we're gonna get to a point where we're gonna be able to alter people's DNA to the point you can just
I don't
make
think.
people grow without foreskin.
Well,
Turn
that's
into a
well that
five
gets
skin.
into the genetic altering where like you can custom make your like babies now.
Yeah, I think it's gonna get to
You can pick
yeah.
what they're gonna look like.
which honestly, this is a whole discussion that I have
Yeah.
witten down on my phone for another podcast because it's another very interesting topic.
Yeah.
That we could.
Either way,
genetics.
the Jews don't get to decide how evolution works.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, it was just
and
there.
I'm the one getting canceled.
It was just right there.
Oh my god!
I don't hate the Jews.
I'm getting.
I genuinely think
Stop
that
talking.
Hey Melanie, you want a shovel?
yeah. I do genuinely think that people who blame the Jews for stupid shit is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Let's continue.
No, you know what? You don't need a shovel. You got a fucking backhoe now. You've excavated a deeper hole. They're gonna find Jimmy Hoffa before they find you.
It can be edited out if it's that bad,
No way.
but
it's
it doesn't
staying.
have
Oh
to
no,
be.
no,
This
there's
is
no.
documented.
You cannot pole vault your way out of this one, or
I got
shovel
boobs,
your
I
way.
can get my way to anything.
Okay, then you
Oh,
can't shovel
shit.
your way out of this one.
She's not wrong. Boobs are the trump card.
Yeah.
Does he have boobs?
All right, let's progress through this before I get some sort of fuck's sakes. Before I get some type of violation.
There's good and bad in everything. The good is you get a thumbnail. The bad is you get me.
I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if it's gonna be worth the HR violations.
We don't have HR, so it doesn't matter.
Well, they're gonna make us get one.
I can't wait to see the first hate comment.
Oh god.
That's
and
gonna
it's
be
about
awesome.
me.
And it's gonna be all
That
Melanie's
person's
fault.
gonna.
Yeah, I'm
that
gonna
person,
love that.
We need to make them a moderator.
It's like
I'm gonna love that.
that guy. Forget the guy who's talking about fucking a dog. Let's go after the woman who's talking about those people.
Oh yeah.
So,
The
an interesting concept that I've kind of pondered and researched a bit is how is it possible to keep these things classified? Why isn't there more whistleblowers? And that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about humans are very dubious when it comes to the information they're privy to, and people like to talk. And I think that if what people say, if this many people know about this phenomenon and have direct interaction with it, because I'm just going off the top of my head, think about the people that have to interact with these crafts. Engineers, tech scientists, just the thousands of people who would come into contact with these things, and no one's said anything, no one's disclosed anything.
and the craziest part to add on to that, like, humans are natural gossipers. So it's like, how the hell can that many people just not slip up?
Yeah, it's
You can't slip up if you're shot in the head.
Yeah,
I mean
you
that's
slip down.
which is something that people bring up.
Stairs and out a window,
But,
into a bullet.
This theory is this one's something I'm kind of on the fence about, because on one hand I believe this phenomenon can absolutely be kept under wraps, because UFOs predominantly seem to be spotted over U.S. and North America in general, because right now the U.S. is still the nuclear superpower. So I kind of believe that the far-reaching Herculean power of the U.S. government has the ability to stifle this sort of information getting through. Like you were saying earlier, how they basically portrayed people who believe in UFOs as this one archetype, that they're crazy. It's your crazy uncle who has an RV full of satellites and they sit up there and take pictures of the sky. I mean, that's kind of the archetypal image that they've engendered in people. So they can do it by force, of course, and there's also what we spoke about of manipulating the media and call people's psychological well-beings into question. And I do believe they have, if this stuff, it does exist, mind you, that they have kind of gaslit the entire planet. And I also imagine there'd also be a rigorous vetting process, like Stephen Greer mentioned, maybe not on the same level, but they would only indoctrinate people who are the most questionable with their morals, I guess. But like we said earlier, beforehand, people are very capricious, and this type of responsibility would probably push most people to their breaking point. But
Something
what
that
do you
I
guys
want to
think?
look into at some point is to see if anyone's had like defamation lawsuits towards the governments due to, like, I don't know, say someone's father or grandfather or even them maybe at one point had one of these stories, had like a reputation amongst like communities, but then just like basically got driven to insanity because of these like misinformation campaigns against them to make them seem like they're crazy and act crazy and basically become fucking crazy. Like, people are like, it just seems like defamation and just you shit on someone's name and now you can sue them. That seems like it's happening quite often now. I'm curious if that's happening in like the UFO community as well.
I think
Or
it's very
UAP.
possible. In the one thing in regards to about the UFO community, sorry guys if I kind of stumble over my words here for a second, because I'm trying to find a specific type of video that for some reason Mike just talking reminded me of. And the UFO community, it's a very contentious one, and people will vehemently and vociferously argue their points, and they're not afraid to call other people out, which to me, that whole thing of people arguing to that degree is ridiculous, because this is something that none of it's been proven. I mean, you can provide all the evidence you want, and I think this is a quote that I like, that I just remembered now, and you will most, at least in the regarding most things in life, and that's, you'll never get the truth, you'll only come close to the truth. And I believe that quote is very applicable to this topic of regarding UAPs and stuff.
Yeah.
But what do you think regarding that? You want to delve deeper on that?
I'm pretty good.
I'm
I
just
have
trying to
nothing deep to say because
To be honest.
you mentioned thinking that the way that people argue their points in the UFO community is kind of wild. Like how they'll really bunker down on it. And it just made me think about, like, you think that's wild. Have you seen the things that people will, like, murder other people over?
Oh, okay,
Like, people will argue aggressively about the stupidest things.
Yeah.
Because it's what they believe in. So they will go to the ends of the earth
Yeah, belief is a powerful tool.
to solidify their stance and try to convert people to their belief.
Yeah, see, and if you have the mainstream media at your fingertips, it's something that's very easy to do if you think about it. Is you're going to be able to easily manipulate what people see, especially back in, say, the 90s and early 2000s before the internet. I mean, all people had to rely on was what the TV said. And if there were conglomerates, say, that were in charge of these media companies who are on a payroll of something else, I mean, they're going to propagate whatever the hell they want to you, and you're going to consume that.
Fuck. Have you seen the compilation videos? I can't remember if I've brought this up before, but of different broadcasting stations basically spinning the exact same
You mentioned that last
story.
podcast.
Okay, yeah. That's freaky.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys bear with me for a second. I'm just opening something up here because I'm going to play... This kind of all ties in with what we're talking about. So this is a 6-minute long clip, and I'm going to see if this...
Hold on, are you playing the whole 6 minutes?
Yes, probably. Because it's kind of relative to what we're talking about now. About...
Okay, well, we better be fucking transformative.
Yeah, it's taken from a radio show back in the 90s. And I remember the first time I saw this, it scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. And some people call this clip into question, but I'm going to play it here. And tell me, guys, what you think.
Do we get to also watch it? Or
It's just radio. So I'm gonna read the clip to you guys since you guys can't see it. In 1997, syndicated talk show host Art Bell received a call from a frantic caller, a man claiming to have worked at Area 51. It's just
Probably seen this before.
The call does not appear to be a hoax. Instead, it has an eerie sound of truth. The call was immediately knocked off the air.
Yeah, this is during a live broadcast, eh?
Yeah. Could it be the aliens or government silenced him into keeping the people from knowing the plans? You be the judge. So, yeah, let's take a listen to this. It's a bit of a long clip.
Hello, Art? Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
Just gonna check. Can you guys hear it?
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not. Area 51. Alright, were you an employee or are you now? I'm a former employee. Former employee? I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna, they'll triangulate on this decision really soon. You can't spend a lot of time on the phone, so give us something quick. Okay, what we're thinking of as aliens are, they're extra-dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be. They have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51. The disasters that are coming, the military, the government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas in this world that they could begin moving the population to now, Art. But they're not doing anything. They're not. They want the major population centers wiped out so that the few that are left will be more easily controllable.
It's like the world's most dangerous blowjob in progress.
So, right there, the transmission was just lost. It was cut off during this call, but it's gonna... I think they're trying to get it back up and running. Transmission lost. Backup system now running.
Well, did you hear? Now you tell me because you were listening.
That was awful strange.
It was a really weird guy on the air when it went off.
Yeah, real weird out.
Like going sort of sounding paranoid, schizophrenic.
Like crying and everything.
Yeah. And how far into the conversation was it when it went off?
It's just a couple, about 15, 20 seconds, I'd say.
Oh, you guys you really missed the call then, and I've got a feeling somebody didn't want you to hear it.
Yeah.
Oh, so they cut it off.
Yeah, they cut
on
it
the
off.
radio.
Live on air.
Mark Furman when
Well, the network, of course, went immediately to a backup tape while we tried to figure out what blew up here. So that's what you heard happen. And then we're now on a backup link system to be on the air at all right now.
They destroyed a part of
Well, I'm
the
telling you.
Am I on the air right now?
You're on the air right now? Well, you better be, yes.
And
Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah, I called the other night, and I wanted to ask one when you were in, while you go to Egypt.
Yes.
And
Yeah, so we'll end it off there because
So basically, part of the broadcasting station got hit midway through that call. The backup systems collected the rest of the call while the radio broadcast ended. That's basically what I've...
yeah, so mid conversation through that,
Yeah.
they were just shut down. And really listening to that, I'd say what that guy was saying was either A, it was real, everything he's claiming was real and he is who he says he was, or that guy is very mentally disturbed but believes his delusions. That's the only two, because that, in my opinion, is not fake. There's no way that was fake. But it did come out afterwards that I don't know who it was. I can't remember. It's something that I should do a bit more research on, but before I played it, but it just popped into my head now and I just wanted to put it on. But they said it was a hoax, but I don't think it was. It's just what happened and the way it played out and the mannerisms in the guy's voice and his stuttering. There's no way. If he's an actor, give him a fucking Oscar.
Well, it's the timing of the
I feel like at first you're like, yeah, this guy's fucking insane because of the things he's saying. But like he seems to genuinely believe it. Whether he's correct or not is a different thing. But like your first impression is this guy is saying these things and they don't make sense. That's not possible. And I think if they had let him keep going, it would have solidified the he's a crazy person theory. But the fact that they cut him off and like just shut him out makes it more suspicious.
And the way they did it.
Yeah, it
Like,
just makes it sound like they were scrambling to turn him off.
If it just ended, like phone call dropped,
Yeah.
then it would be like, all right, that's probably bullshit.
Yeah, but the
where
way
it's
that they
like
just cut him out
the radio,
and like
attack,
they
basically.
say that it was the radio that did, like
Yeah.
the radio station that did it, makes it seem a lot more suspicious.
Yeah. I'm just trying to
you say something blew up in the radio station.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't make out.
Like a
that
server?
That was kind of ambiguous what actually happened there, because the text...
Yeah, but that could be like not like a physical like blowing it up. It could
But
be
they-
just that they well it
Okay.
could-
They said that there was a they're on backup.
yeah,
So,
because like it could be like a technical blow up
Yeah,
where like
yeah.
the station like
Yeah.
So here I found the article that states what they believed happened. So let me
Sorry,
just-
what year was this?
That was in 1997.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna read this quote from iHeartRadio.com verbatim. The same gentleman allegedly called back again on April 28th, 1998,
my
admitting the
birthday.
original call was fraudulent. However, the second caller's voice, tone, and mannerisms have called into question whether this was the same person.
I think trying to say that it was a hoax after, nobody's gonna fucking believe
No,
it.
I don't.
The way that
I
it
don't believe
so
that.
abruptly ended, there's no way that you can believably like make it out to be a hoax without definitive proof. Like you can't just say, "Oh, it was a hoax."
That's
Like you could even if it was that guy who said, "Yeah, it was a hoax." Like I feel like it's more believable to be like, "Yeah, his life was threatened." to say those.
This
like
is giving me like
he was blackmailed.
Flashbacks of the. Did I show you that Las Vegas shooting Reddit post or 4chan post?
You told me about it, and I have a hard time remembering what.
Basically, buddy warning people that shit was going to go down on a specific set of dates or within a specific set of dates, and like talking about all of these kind of systems being implemented afterwards and why it was happening and how it was going to happen and who it was going to happen to where and such.
Yeah,
And like nailed it.
to me, everything.
Well, that's like The Simpsons.
Yeah, it was fucked because it was like you could real time see people like commenting and reacting to this post, and it's like, how the like are you the person? What was it, John Titter? Is that the time traveler?
You know, I think while we're kind of going down this bit of a rabbit hole here, I do think that we should have a podcast talking more about conspiracies and fleshing these out, because I think there's an underbelly or overbelly of society that we don't understand.
But it gets into like what I guess I'm getting into is, or trying to go towards, is that like this guy sounds like he got silenced on the radio, like basically taken out.
Took out the whole radio broadcast.
Yeah. And the same thing kind of happened with this 4chan Vegas shooter guy. Like, they think that he was the one found in New York. Shotgun to the back of the head. Or, shot himself in the back of the head with a shotgun.
Maybe dropped it.
Yeah. And it's just like,
Come on.
there's probably government shit going on that people don't know about, and unfortunately it's probably like pretty sinister shit, like cover up.
I don't want to go down too
Yeah.
deeply right now, because that's getting into like gun control and all that.
I can't wait till we get assassinated.
But
Can't
that
wait either.
that when I listened to that call as a kid, it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I was 2 when that guy called back and said it's a hoax. That was my fucking birthday.
Yeah, see,
I was
and
turning
them
2 years
claiming-
old.
Them claiming it was a hoax, to me, that
Yeah.
solidified it even more. That there's no fucking way. Moving on a bit further from that, and keeping with the how's it possible they keep these things classified? Why isn't there any more whistleblowers? And I think that there's getting into this topic of UFOs, especially, it's so convoluted. And even if someone comes out who alleges that they are intrinsically involved in some of these programs, there's always going to be somebody else who's going to contest what they have to say. They're going to call out their credibility. They're going to pontificate their beliefs, and it's just going to be this back and forth. And I think it's so convoluted now. We're never going to know the full extent of things, and that's why I said, we're only ever going to come close to the truth.
Yeah.
But we're never going to know the truth. And I do believe that. And also, to add to it, governments like to act like everything's copacetic and that they know what they're talking about, especially in regards to alien tech and whatnot. But if they do have this alien tech that can travel through interstellar space and do all these things that we couldn't even comprehend, and we don't even have anywhere close to this technology, I liken it to saying it's tantamount to going back in time and giving a cell phone to a caveman. What the fuck are we going to do with it? I mean, especially if they're tapping into energy that we don't know about or may not even possess.
Yeah.
But anything you guys want to add on that front?
That reminds me of, you ever watch Dr. Stone or heard of Dr. Stone?
Yes, I've heard of it.
It's like humanity gets basically Medusa'd, and everyone's turned to stone. I think it's like, God, like thousands of years, I think, in the future.
Mm-hmm.
This guy somehow is conscious throughout the whole process and not aging, and he like counts, and eventually he like breaks out of the stone, and he starts like, he figures out, I think bat piss or poop or something like that from a cave. Yeah, like it just deteriorates the rock and revives people. So he's starting to like revive people, and so you got like modern day humans in like caveman times, but there's also like, and spoiler alert if you haven't watched the show, there are people that didn't get turned into stone, but they're all like primitive because they've been like like 8-10 generations or maybe even hundreds of generations. So they're like sticks and stones, and meanwhile this guy's like building cell phones and shit, and they're like, what's a cell phone? What's cotton candy? What's a light bulb? This
And
Yeah.
he basically gets to invent everything.
Yeah, he basically becomes like a god to them.
Until Thomas Edison comes along and
Yeah.
steals it all.
He's like, let's make a flying machine. They're like, what?
Actually,
You can fly?
as a quick anecdote,
Actually, I saw the episode where they did that.
Oh man, this show's so good.
there's the concept of cargo gods, which is something I meant to talk about earlier, and that's it was earlier on in the podcast. I can't remember what exactly we were discussing, but there's like remote tribes and stuff. They see helicopters go over and they, airdrop supplies or what have you, and they literally view these things as gods. And I kind of feel like we're the same way when it comes to UAPs and UFOs and such. But if we move on to the next question, why do you guys think that this resurgence and UFOs making a reappearing in and kind of like reincarnated in the public zeitgeist, why do you think it's been met with basically a yawn, just fucking crickets? Because most people, aside from couple like niche YouTube channels and of course it's reignited the debate online, us, because we're kind of interested in these types of subjects. Why do you guys think it's been met with mostly crickets?
I think we're so fucking jaded. Like, just even before COVID, we were fairly jaded. But I think that just like did so many people in to the point where they like an asteroid could be coming and it would be like that fucking movie.
Armageddon?
No, the new one where the scientists are like trying to tell everyone like, oh, we're all going
Yeah.
to die, and everyone's like, no, we're not.
Yeah,
There's a
nobody believes them.
99.1 or 2%. Oh, what about the other 0.8? Huh. So it's not gonna happen. Like, everyone just doesn't give a shit.
I saw the end of that movie.
What's it called?
I don't know. I wasn't the one who watched it. I saw the end of it.
Up?
Huh?
Don't Look Up?
Yes.
Yeah, Don't Look Up. And it's basically like,
okay, I've heard of it.
they're basically trying to warn everyone. Nobody gives a shit. They finally like see this thing coming. I think a couple people get off or something. I don't know. And everyone dies.
They
I
get
think-
off before the asteroid hits, so they're just like
Yeah. Just
cranking it in the
wanking
street.
Just sploosh like tidal wave.
Oh,
Like like biblical flood.
it'd be
of
like
cum.
it'd be like when that, I think it was in Boston maybe, when they had that incident with molasses and there was like people who died in it. You guys ever hear about that?
Yeah.
No, but I want
Yeah.
to.
Oh, she knows what I'm talking about.
Please tell me it's
There was just like a flood, like a
molasses.
molasses flood.
like
and
a
it-
slide. Like a
No,
molasses
like
slide?
a lot of people died from it because there was just tons and tons of molasses in a factory that broke open, and
Like imagine a water tower, right?
How
Just
do you
filled
get
with
trapped
molasses.
by molasses?
because there was a lot
There's
of
just
molasses.
so much of it.
It's so slow.
And it's so dense.
Oh, was it hot?
It was really hot.
Oh, okay.
It was on a very.
So
This was back in the early 1900s, I think.
When it was
Could have
really
been in
warm.
the 1800s too.
I think that. God, can I even remember what it was anymore?
Like I've always heard the saying, like, "Oh, that's slower than cold molasses running up
What
a
the
hill."
fuck were we talking about again?
We were
Molasses.
talking about why. We were talking about why people have kind of.
Oh, I think it's a combination of two things. I think the first thing is information overload.
Yeah.
So we are just so overloaded with information now that it's all kind of lost meaning to a point where like we just don't think things are that crazy anymore.
Yeah.
Because we just have absorbed too much information in too short of a period of time.
And not to mention, this has been going on, like the whole UFO phenomenon. It's kind of like it's an antiquated topic to begin with. And I also I'm going to harken back to the previous episode where we talked about the acronym change. And I think the acronym change was definitely a huge push to reintroduce this to the public, as in the government trying to take this concept more seriously and strive for transparency. And that's something we'll get into when we talk about the congressional hearing.
Did you remember that I said two things? And then you interrupted
And she
me?
started with the first one.
Yeah, I started with the first thing. So the second
number
part
two.
of that is I think people are also like this isn't the first time that something crazy has been brought up and people like latched onto it, and then it turns out it was covering something else up. Like, I know I mentioned this last time, but every time something is happening within the government specifically, they bring up a new controversy to distract everybody from it.
That's what Trump was the master of.
And I feel like this like was also used as a similar tactic to try and distract people, and people were
Yeah,
like,
that harkens back to
I'm
the-
not fucking like
When we're talking about government ploys.
Yeah.
it just I think that these kinds of things happen too often.
Yeah, in an effort to obfuscate.
And like people have picked up that they do that, so people are obviously going to look deeper into it past the UFOs.
That
And
reminds me of like the derailment in Ohio. It's like
Yeah,
chemical derailment, and then it had to have been like within days, or maybe even the same day, probably the same day. Like the major media outlets weren't covering that, but they're like, "Oh, UFOs."
Yeah,
it's,
it's
like what?
People are so inundated by cataclysms
Yeah.
every day. And you know, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here for a second, but I think there's a multiplicity of reasons why people have not received this as I think people in Congress or people in the media were expecting. And that's because there's more and more on people's plates and less of it is food. There's a large contingent of the population now that are just living paycheck to paycheck. Actually, I just saw an article on CTV News that it was yesterday that I read this, that more than half of Atlantic Canadians, Saskatchewans, and Manitobans are living paycheck to paycheck. And not to mention the wars erupting across the globe, being told how deplorable we are, especially the younger generation, because we use fossil fuels and eat meat. That our ways of thinking are antiquated and doesn't align with the status quo of nowadays. And let's not forget to mention that the state of the planet is our fault and it's our responsibility to fix it. How? We don't know. It's just you are the problem. That's what more and more people are facing, is that we're basically we're the fucking problem. We fucked everything up. What are we going to do about it? Here, take these antidepressants. And just people become so anesthetized to conflict and cataclysms in general, and just because we've been told that the world is ending since we've been born, especially as of lately. I feel bad for people who are in their teens and even early 20s who are faced with the constant influx of negativity that they're enduring because, well, we're horrible people because we have to use the materials that the world's been given. Like, I would love to have solar panels. I would love to drive a battery operated vehicle, but stop acting like you're the paragon of fucking virtue and valorize yourself because you can afford an electric vehicle that was created using slave labor and also destroying the environment. But it's okay. It's destroying the environment in another part of the world. Yeah. So people who think like that and propagate this stuff are a part of the fucking problem. And I see you doing this over there. And
Well,
it's like,
when you get into like, oh well, how can we fix this? Okay, here's X number of ways of fixing this. Oh, but it costs too much, so we can't do that. It's like,
exactly.
What the fuck do you mean? Like fiat currencies? Everyone's currencies now.
The US
don't fucking exist. Like, why make it a currency issue? Just fucking do it. Like, let's if our generation's going to shit and we've got to take all this burden, why don't we just go fucking all in, fix this shit now so that future generations can like build onto it and make it better.
It's like people saying, Elon Musk, give money to, I don't know, fucking, I don't want to name any specific countries, but a third world country that can't afford food. I don't know, Haiti, for example. Give Haiti all this money. Then what?
Yeah.
It's right now, people are so stressed and we're angry, and all that's happening is that in the pursuit of bringing people together, we're just making things more diverse. This is the most diverse I've ever seen the human populace in general.
And now they're adding aliens.
And now aliens are brought into. So it's like people are just at the point where we're just saying, if there's aliens, just fucking kill us already.
Yeah.
Elton Brown.
I just wanted to say this real quick. Kind of like a summarized version of what I said is how many times can Pompeii happen to you before you're like, oh, this shit again?
Oh, here goes
Right?
the
Like you're not
fucking
gonna
volcano.
be you're not gonna be fucking shocked and surprised every time. After a while you're gonna be like, good God, again.
Do you imagine just sitting there like watching your TV and it starts flicker, fucking volcano?
Your fucking neighbor's gone,
Yeah.
like just taken
Yeah,
out. You're
it's
like,
just people don't care, and it's no secret that the pharmaceutical industry has been thriving over how
Oh, yeah.
nihilistic and anesthetized people have become. They're the only ones who are raking in the money, and due to the unforeseen circumstances we've found ourselves embroiled in lately, whether it be the pandemic, which in my opinion was a huge catalyst for the decline of people's mental health. You know how people I've seen personally suffer from the lockdown is insane. And Melanie,
I just gotta say, the lockdown was fucking wonderful for me. I had
you.
a good fucking time.
for you, yes, but I think most people,
Yes, for most people, like
all
it
it
sucked.
did is turn people against each other even more. The government successfully deputized its own citizens to accost one another.
That,
And it
yeah.
just, I know it's the old adage, divide and conquer. And I wouldn't say I'm much into a conspiracy theorist territory regarding that, but I do think there's a lot of stuff we don't know regarding it. And I'm mainly talking about it in regards to mental health and how people are just so, it's just society in general is just so downtrodden, and no matter where you look, no matter where you go, you're going to be faced with negativity, and you're constantly going to be told how you're living and how you're doing it is wrong. It's bad for the planet. You're killing the planet. It's just,
Yeah.
you don't fucking care.
And then you ask that same person, "Oh, what's your solution?" And they're like, "I don't fucking know."
Well,
It's
that's the thing, right? Like, I
you're not
think
productive.
I think you can ask the regular person, "What's your solution?" and they're not gonna have any idea. Like, you can see something's wrong and not know how to fix it.
Oh, I'm talking about like government and shit like that. Like, you get these higher ups telling you like, "Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that," and it's like, okay,
Well,
but what's your alternative?
To
I don't
an
have an
extent,
alternative.
I think,
It's like then you're being
I think
kinda
it's-
productive.
yeah, you can still see something's wrong, but you're not.
Oh, yeah.
You're not qualified to be like, I know how to fix it.
I guess what I'm getting at is like, if you're going to be the authoritative figure,
Indignant.
yeah, and basically like try to control people on how they act and what they do, and you're like, well, that's wrong, or you shouldn't be doing that. Like, you see all these politicians like pushing for like mask mandates and shit like that during COVID. We'll bring it towards COVID. And then you see pictures of them out at gatherings with their
Yeah.
masks and shit like that, and it's like, what the
Yeah, Dr. Mike.
And
Just
you know,
kidding, I love Dr.
I know that we're kind of on a
what the fuck is going on here?
we're
Like,
kind of on a tangent right now, but in my opinion, it still
But-
relates to why people don't
Yeah.
care about the UFO phenomenon. It's like
it's for everything.
When
Like,
I-
fuck.
I stopped going shopping basically altogether when the pandemic started and the lockdown started. I wanted nothing to do with going into public because at the inaugural days of the lockdown, I already saw where this was going, and I saw the way people were starting to look at one another, and I tend to absorb the energy of people who are around me, and I would feel so uncomfortable when I was shopping. And it, to the point where like I just, my anxiety got so bad because I'm looking at people, I'm seeing how they're looking at other people, who is when you had the choice on whether you could wear a mask or not. And then they put the fucking arrows in the store. Now I worked in retail for 3 years, and I found it very coincidental that the arrows just happened to bring you down every single aisle, past every single end cap. And for those of you who think they're doing it for your benefit, you're a fucking idiot. I'm sorry. I typically don't like to denigrate others for their beliefs or their ways of thinking, but that is such a sheep way of thinking, because the reason why Walmart and all these other major conglomerates did this wasn't for your protection. They were doing it because it made you buy more things.
You notice as well that like when you walk into a Walmart, we'll use Walmart as an example because that's like I think the
They're pretty homogeneous
strongest
too.
one. They make you walk down like the chip aisles and the shitty foods first, and they have all the necessities and the non-perishables that you need in like a pandemic way at the fucking back or
And
somewhere in the middle.
Well, that's just
And-
with any floor layout. They move things to the back that they know that you're gonna look for, and then
And-
they move
Yeah,
things that you
yeah.
don't need.
I want
closer
people
to
to-
the front.
But to force people to go through
Yeah.
those aisles first to buy, I wasn't planning on buying chips, but since I'm here, I'll get chip food.
And I want people
And
to know
that's
this.
your fault.
I gotta take.
I'm weak.
I gotta take the glasses off. I find I just look like Jim Carrey or Drew.
Oh my gosh, who are you?
I look like Drew Carey on dialysis with
What
my
happened to
glasses
Ryan?
on. But when I worked at Walmart, they even said themselves, this isn't conspiracy theory, everything in a Walmart, and I like using Walmart as an example because those stores are quite homogeneous, because when you go in one Walmart, you've been in all Walmarts basically. There isn't a single thing that happens in there without a reason, from the music to the layout to everything that happens as soon as you walk through those doors, even beforehand, as soon as you pull in the parking lot, is there to get you to spend more money.
Basically, dopamine hit right
And
when you walk
exactly.
in. Yeah.
You'll never go into a store and hear, say something, I'm giving up on. It's not going to happen. They want upbeat, bubbly music. They want you to be as happy as you can. They want you to spend as much as you can. And these arrows, when they were implemented, they took you past every end cap. And everyone knows that on end caps, well, maybe not everybody, when stores put things on end caps, they're doing it in a way to clear them out. They're usually on sale. And they brought you down every fucking aisle. And once they started that, I was like, I can't do it. This is just too toxic for my mental health, and I think for everybody's mental health in general. And I've heard several horror stories from coworkers of people that had run-ins with these self-righteous, indignant, deputized idiots who thought they could just berate other citizens for trying to exercise their rights on the using the. It's not even that they cared about the pandemic, in my opinion. I think they just gave them a boner or a wet patch on their pants because they had the opportunity to tell others what to do. And I think it was just a whole thing that was predicated on authority.
One thing that did my head in was when you're walking down the aisle, and there'll always be that one person, probably maybe 3/4 of the way down the aisle, with a shopping cart, and it'll be turned to the side. Now, remember, 6 meters or 6 feet? 6 feet distance, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 6 foot distance. You can't. So the aisles are 4 feet wide? So you can't pass them. Now you're midway. There's someone blocking the exit, and there's someone behind you. I had to fucking stand there for 2 minutes waiting for this dumbass ahead of me to
'Cause you couldn't
clue
go around
in.
them.
Yeah, to clue in to being like, oh yeah, I'm in your way, and then move. But the stare that I got, it was like, oh, don't come near me. You might have COVID. It's just like, fuck. I think at that point was where my brain snapped, where I'm like, you know what? Honestly, give it to me. At this point, that way I don't fucking have to deal with these people. That was nihilism, Mike.
I was
Kinda
it
coming out,
was
but-
a horribly
Yeah.
depressing time,
just
and I
did
think
my head
people
in.
are still reeling from that. And Melanie's taken off.
Foods.
Bye-bye, Melanie. She's got to go eat food.
I'm gonna go eat nachos.
Getting hungry. Ah, damn nachos. nachos.
Fuck, I'd leave for nachos too.
I'll get more than nachos.
But moving on from that point, we're on the last part of the podcast now, and it's going to be one that
Just straight up
a bit
porn.
multi-layered. Actually, I got to put my fucking glasses back on.
Straight up porn.
Straight up alien porn. Just
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
ET just
Yeah.
dig that fucking lighted up finger. It's probably radiation. It's probably what that is. Radiate your prostate.
Ooh.
So the last question that I'm going to pose to just you now is why hasn't there been full disclosure? Are you in favor or against full disclosure?
Buddy guy. Do you know how many people would fucking lose their minds? Every religion. Well, no, okay, not every religion or people, not every person in every religion, but I'd say about 90% of them would probably try to kill it. It would instantly become hostile because it's just like it goes against everything they
And
kind of believe in.
I
And
th-
that's
That's exactly what I had written in my
Yeah.
notes, because when I was thinking of things like why shouldn't we have full disclosure? Because I don't think people understand the implications it would have on our society as a whole, every facet
Oh,
of
yeah.
our society, depending on what these terrestrials could be. Because according to David Grush, they did find biologics, whatever that means. But we'll get into that in more detail when we go through the congressional hearing. But I was sitting there, I was trying to think, I'm like, is there a reason for full disclosure other than to appease people who want to be confirmed that they're not crazy? Just confirmation that I knew I was right. But I don't know. I couldn't think of really any positives outside that. I just don't think it'd be the auspicious move to make.
I mean, New World Order's been a thing for
Exactly.
ever since I can remember. People have been conspiracies about it and shit like that. But I do believe that eventually, as a species, we have to become one. And I think that's
So like
gonna
a
be-
singularity.
Yeah, like no borders, no multi-governments, no...
That's why I think Switzerland and Norway and Sweden, in my opinion, those are they truly represent what the free world should be. And they are far ahead of us, in my opinion, in every facet of a societal structure. They have exceeded North America, including Canada and the US. I'm like, yeah, sure, the US has the bigger dick when it comes to the military, but society-wise, no. Not anywhere as close. I don't think anytime soon we ever come close to places like Norway, Switzerland, Sweden, Netherlands.
Unfortunately, it's just like you look at us now with, like, I keep coming back to borders and nationalism and shit like that. Like, there is a reason why we have borders. It's because if we allow people to freely interact, like with no restrictions or basically free will to go wherever they want, they're probably gonna end up killing each other.
Well, and that's the
Like
thing.
it's because of current brainwashing, I guess, of like our countries. Because I mean, like, the whole point of nationalism is like we're the better nation. So it's like, okay, so this country is a country because it thinks that it's going to be the one that wins Risk.
Yeah.
That's how I view the world. It is basically just one giant game of Risk. And with the borders and the countries, we're going to be killing each other.
Well-
You get rid of that, it's probably going to be because we know that aliens exist. Now they're going to be a potential enemy. So we have to unify.
It's always going to be a grab for power.
Yeah. I mean, we're very defensive, like we've
been killing each other over
Yeah.
land ever since humans existed. Is that going to end anytime soon? No.
No.
Even with China making their new maps where they claim Taiwan and parts of Russia, parts of India, I mean, it still shows that we're nowhere near that. And even then, if we do happen to create this uniformed society, who's going to lead it?
Yeah.
How's it going to be led? I mean, there's going to be grasps for power, and it's just...
And it would be generations before people would finally be like, oh, hey, we're not actually different. Like, you might speak a different language, but, like, you have the same struggles as me. Or, like, everyone's just going through the same kind of mundane bullshit that everyone else is. And it's just like, some people's is better, some people's are worse, but at the end of the day, it's like, fuck. Like,
And-
just let us do our thing.
And like what you said regarding religions is that I know it's unlike humans to kill each other over intangible deities. I know we've never done that in our
Not at all.
existence. It doesn't sound like humans, but it could happen.
Nah, man.
I mean, you have to think about it. Just think about all the different religions that are still embroiled in conflict today, that are killing each other. I couldn't even imagine what this would do, depending on what they are and what we worship.
yeah.
It would call into question everything that we currently know, and it would completely change the paradigm of society as we know it.
Did you watch any of the broadcasts coming out of Russia when they first like started invading?
No.
Okay, and it just fucking blew my mind. Like, I don't know if it's truly just a random citizen or if this was like government kind of stand-in acting, whatever you want to call it. But I remember seeing a fucking this interview, and they're just like, everyone that they're interviewing is, I think is it the Orthodox Church? Orthodox Catholics? Are they?
Some derivative of
Yeah, I
Christianity.
can't remember.
Let's go with
Yeah.
that.
So whatever sect of religion that they're in, I remember seeing this person. I can't remember if it was a man or a woman, but they're like, yeah. So what do you think about the nuclear threat that Putin just declared? And it's like, oh yeah, no, we should totally just nuke them all. And I mean, like, they're all gonna go to hell, and like, if they nuke us back, we'll all go to heaven, and I'm fine with that. It's like, what the fuck? Like,
It's fucking insanity.
like, okay, so you're okay with everyone dying because you're going to go to your safe place, I guess.
It's like,
The ultimate safe space.
you know, it reminds me of, it's like, I like to think of Supernatural. How far have you, I'm
Oh,
gonna
I finished it.
Okay, I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
spoil Supernatural here, but do you remember?
So fucking good.
Do you remember when God says that he basically created all the other deities that
Oh, yeah.
people worship just to keep flack off him?
Yeah.
That's kind of it's kind of how I view religion now. That kind of changed my perspective on religion. Like, what if there is just one God and he's really that much of a narcissist?
I don't want to get too far into it, but yeah, he's a bit of a dick.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil Supernatural any more than that, but according to Tom DeLonge, going back to him, each superpower may possess alien tech that was either procured accidentally, I know I kind of went over this earlier, via crash, or is given to us to fight over to see who's the dominant power. Though this is all anecdotal, and if they do possess it, it's mostly unknown how they possessed it, but it's believed that the aliens could have given tech, and now they're waiting to see us fight, and whoever reigns supreme, I guess, will win. What the prize will be, I don't really know, but it is believed that maybe this stuff is kept clandestine for national security reasons, like the U.S. likes to preach. I like to say a lot in the congressional hearing.
It's a valid possibility, I think. Like, kind of goes back to like the game show theory. It's like, maybe we're just a social experiment.
Could
Like, hey,
be.
let's
Just watch us fight over.
maybe we are aliens. Like, the aliens that we think exist, maybe we are just like a bunch. Basically, we're the Australia of fucking,
of the solar system.
yeah.
Can't.
And they just threw us on this planet, been like, hey, let's let them like develop, and then we'll just give them a bunch of shit and see what they do.
And Another thing that I just thought of today, actually, right before you guys showed up, I was thinking if funds were misappropriated due to these deep black budgets, because the Pentagon has failed every audit that they've ever had. And we talked about it in a bit in the last episode. It's very contentious when people talk about it, about the funds that have been misappropriated or missing receipts, like billions and billions of dollars just gone. I think one of the congressional representatives said 60% of the U.S. budget is accounted for. So where's the other 40% going?
Golf.
And golf.
Probably a lot of the money probably went towards fucking golf.
And probably with the way things are going, Trump's lawyers. But if you think about it, if that much taxpayer money is being misallocated, think of the lawsuits for malfeasance from
Oh,
taxpayers
it never happened.
that would incur. But if it was proven, like the evidence actually came out that the government was misappropriating funds to send to these deep black budgets that Congress isn't even aware of, I think there would be a shit ton of lawsuits, and I think that could cause the collapse of the U.S. government. And I know I'm kind of thinking hyperbole here, but I could really see that happening.
You kind of got to think like all of the lawsuits that have occurred that we know about, like fuck MK Ultra, we've got 9/11, we've got fucking oh my god, why am I drawing a blank now? Well, you look at like even here in Canada, like the fucking Reformation schools, like I would hope that there's lawsuits against the government for
Well,
that
you know,
shit.
settle out of
Like,
court.
that shit was happening in the fucking 90s.
I don't even know if it necessarily just be lawsuits that'd be the problem. I think a big part of it would be people that would evaporate all trust in the government if this was actually proven.
I don't know, man.
You could see a whole power shift happen in the U.S. if something like that happened. Or I could see that.
Do you know how fast people were to be like, "Oh, this is horrible," to being like, "Oh, that was totally last week with the fucking just the Catholic schools."
Yeah, that's
Like,
the thing. Do people
all they did was like, "Oh, we're sorry." It's like, what the
that
What?
reminds me of that South Park episode again with the oil spill. And,
Yeah.
and they make that commercial. It's like, we're
Are
sorry.
you fucking
We're
like
sorry.
and it kind of goes back to like when we started, like I talked about the fucking nukes going off like next to an elementary school. It's like shit like that. People should have been like a lot more should have happened, because it's like, yeah, we're dealing with fucking kids. And it's like there's mass graves. And it's like you don't hear about it anymore. It's like, what the fuck? Is this just another trending?
We can thank the machination of the 24 hours news cycle, because the
God.
24/7 news cycle, I think, is something else that you can credit for people's diminutized or truncated attention span.
Yeah,
Because nobody can retain
Yeah.
information. Everybody's always looking for the next thing.
Yeah.
And
It's like,
that's-
oh, what's trending this week? Oh, what's trending next week? Oh, what happened last week? I can't remember.
like, do you even remember the
Yeah.
Chinese spy balloons?
Yeah.
Does anyone remember?
Yeah,
the
nobody
spy
talks about them anymore. It's just like, it's
And the only reason why I even remembered that was because when I was going through the congressional hearing earlier today, and I printed out a transcript and I'm reading through it and highlighting things, that was like, oh yeah, shit, the fucking Chinese spy balloons, or
Yeah.
that's even what they were. I don't trust anything I hear from the news anymore, because it's all partisan, in my opinion, propaganda.
yeah.
But other than that, that covers everything that I personally found kind of interesting or dug up on the internet in regards to why we haven't kind of received any tangible evidence, and why this stuff isn't as ubiquitous as you think it should be if this many people are seeing things. And, you know, I just kind of wanted to give everybody a broad overview of exactly what we're getting into, because this is all new for us as well. I mean, I of course knew a little bit about UFOs and such, but nothing really like nuanced on the subject. I didn't realize how deep this subject could go. I was
love this shit.
just kind of familiar with it's a government cover up and the government's hiding stuff, and that was essentially my knowledge on this. So I feel like we've kind of covered a very broad overview of UAPs and UFOs in general, even in their origins and why we haven't seen any. I mean, yeah, we could be more comprehensive, of course, because each one of these things could merit a whole episode and stuff on its own. But I just kind of wanted to provide everybody, including ourselves, with a broad overview before we really start focusing in and looking at specifics.
It's like the prelude.
Yeah, so the next episode we're going to be strictly talking about the congressional hearing and seeing what we can glean from that. After that, we're probably going to talk about the concept of alien abductions. And I figured before we kind of delve into that, because I know we're a little late getting to the congressional hearing, but I wanted a grasp on the topic as a whole first before I just dove into the congressional hearing, because the subject matter that they get into and stuff, I probably wouldn't really understand, and I wouldn't really have much to comment on unless I formulated at least some sort of understanding on the whole subject matter as it's in its entirety, at least. And of course, I'm gonna miss things or leave things out. I mean,
Oh god, yeah.
We're
amateurs.
Yeah, as we learn, we're gonna present the information, and we're doing this in a way just to engender more civilized discussion and just kind of get this topic out there, get people talking about it more
In a fun way.
and yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And also because we like this shit. We like digging through this sort of topic. And after this, so after part 3, after the congressional hearing, we're going to dive into the alien abductions. After that, it's kind of up in the air what we're going to do. That's just as far as I have planned ahead at the moment. Because, potentially. We'll probably we may end up taking a break from UFOs because we don't want people to think that we're strictly going to be a UFO channel, which isn't the case. But it's just such a ever-expanding topic.
Get into cooking, it's still just UFOs.
Yeah.
It's like, the fuck's up with these guys?
Well, Mike, is there anything you wanted to add to the whole concept of what we're doing? And
just gonna add, like, you're talking about how we're kind of like amateurs and we're not really.
Yeah,
I wouldn't take everything that you hear from us with the utmost, like, oh, this is what they believe in, or what
essentially all we're trying to do is just present the myriad of theories out there, and we don't really like necessarily espouse ourselves directly with one. There are ones that I believe are definitely more plausible, and ones that I hope, if they do exist, are the case. Like when we were talking about the Kardashev scale and stuff, just these advanced beings that can transcend space and time, and to me it's all fascinating.
And I've probably said something where people are like, oh shit, you must really believe this, and then like contradict myself like moments later.
Yeah.
And be like, what the fuck? It's like, no, that's just me shooting out all of the thoughts in my head. Like, I believe any of these theories? I mean, it's possible.
Yeah,
but it's also like, it's like, I view it like religion. It might be, but it might not be.
As we advance through this, and as we're talking about the theories, I may feel like I kind of align myself with one more than the other, but then immediately in my head I'm contradicting it afterwards. I'm like, well, this and this and this and this, and I'm constantly presenting myself with new information. That's kind of what we're hoping to do for you guys as well, and kind of open up that Pandora's box of possibilities and just kind of get your mind going. Get people out to look at the night sky.
I kind of chuckled at myself earlier because, like, I've been kind of cynical when we talk about like the government and stuff like that, and like just the overall plan of like UFOs and shit. But like earlier, I don't know if you caught on, I was kind of like taking the positive route.
Yeah, a little bit. I was like, that's unlike Mike.
Yeah, and it's just like, that's the kind of shit that I do. Like, I'm positive, I'm negative. Like, I don't know, whatever I feel like talking about, I'll talk about.
We're always vacillating back and forth, especially what idea seems more intriguing at the time, or if we're presented with new evidence that might usurp our previous idea. But to me, I think that's healthy. I think it's a very healthy mindset.
Very adaptive.
And I hope that if we do anything, it's that you engender that we engender that in you as well to discover new opportunities and always have an open mind. But
And try to like objectively listen to what we're saying rather than like
take it verbatim.
yeah, like even if you don't agree with what might be said, like for myself, like I don't agree with everything that you say. I don't agree with
Piece of
everything,
shit.
everything that Melanie says. But while you guys are saying it, I'll actively try to build onto it and like keep the conversation flowing. So I'll just like, oh yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. I see where you're coming from. I might not believe it, but I'm gonna build onto it and kind of like for a moment, just
All right, you want to end this podcast and see where I'm going to be coming in?
to a napkin.
All right, guys, thanks for coming aboard. We'll see you in 2 weeks on the next one when we go through the congressional hearing.
Bye.
Peace.